Now.
Coming to you live from deep within an icy and very disorganized radioactive wasteland. We're the survivors of the alt-right apocalypse, once more wading into battle against the lying, absolutely lying Barbie zombie hordes with Rantzerker.
2, 3, 4.
Through 2, 3, 4. Home Depot dad would not approve of you being a lying, lazy 304. I am your host, Allison, and with me is Hannah and Brian. So we're going to be ranting with Hannah today, not Karen. And yeah, so let's should we just dive right in? I hate to tell you guys, it's more Manifestelle. More Manifestelle.
You don't really hate
I don't know Manifestelle, so this is, you guys get to see me learn about this person live.
Hannah is a complete virgin to Manifestelle.
To Manifestelle, yes.
Yeah, so it's like it's a combination of reacting to Manifestelle, and then you get to see Hannah respond to this entity for the very first time. So it's like
is this woman that we're seeing here her?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This is she.
Did she do that to her eyebrows on purpose?
Yes.
Oh, ow.
Oh, I feel like this is already petty.
I'm sorry, but okay, guys. Okay. I have done nothing to my eyebrows. You can see the gray hairs. I have opinions about that. I hate that kind of.
I didn't realize that Hannah was an eyebrow purist, but yeah.
I don't like. I never would have dated gals that did that to their face.
Just to be. Yeah, this blunt. Is petty, but why did she shove her head into a bucket of fried chicken before going on?
No, it's not that. It's
I mean,
so here's what gets me about it, and I'm gonna be blunt about this. All right, there's trying to look nice, and then there's trying to look sculpted. And a lot of people try to look nice because they want to be pleasant around other people. I know that there are women that wear makeup that's just like minimal or shape emphasizes the shape of their features and everything. But the minute that you try to look like she's going for the high tone bitch look, right?
Yes. You haven't even heard her talk. You've already.
It's not just a look; it's a lifestyle.
And I know what I'm expecting when it's gonna be interesting to see if the impression that causes pans out. Just saying.
Yeah.
Well, don't spoil it for her, Brian. Based purely on physical presentation, Hannah has said that Manifestelle is going for, what was it?
The high tone bitch look. The high tone bitch is that woman that walks in, sticks her tits out and walks in like she owns the place and bosses everybody around and is more important than everybody and her opinion is more important than everybody and whatever she's sympathetic to is more important than what you're sympathetic to.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we'll find out if that is accurate. Place your bets, right, everyone. Before. Okay. Go ahead, Brian.
Go ahead. No, before we start,
I'd like to do the things as we always do. If you want to support the show and support Mia too, she's the one. She's my little companion over here. Go to feedthebadger.com/support. We're not above using pussy to sell the show. Feedthebadger.com.
Does this mean that I have to find my cat videos now and put them up?
Yes, we'll put up some cat videos. Feedthebadger.com/support to support the show. And feedthebadger.com/justthetip if you want to send a tip and a message with that tip. Very best way to send us any kind of funds, any kind of extra funds, and also get your comment read. And it'll also live on in our Discord. So the patrons can look at it with their opera glasses and comment as well. So feedthebadger.com/justthetip to send us a tip and a comment. And so this is Manifestelle once again. We're doing sort of a Manifestelle potpourri. So we're going to attempt the longest Manifestelle response in HBR history. We are going to attempt 4 of her videos, all of which are requests by none other than the ineffable Richard Bier. And starting with her video on Home Depot
Daddy.
Dad.
Oh, I thought we to watch this if you have daddy issues. That's
Yeah,
the
that's
Home Depot dad. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the Home Depot Dad.
So yeah.
Yep. In which
All right.
she blames fatherless behavior on men.
Men.
Yes.
Yeah.
Men.
She also doesn't like the term fatherless behavior when it's directed at women.
Probably because it's accurate.
Well, yeah. It criticizes women accurately. That's why she doesn't like it. Women should never be criticized ever. So, all right. Should I play the intro and then jump into the bit about how this is actually misogyny when women have daddy issues? Or just jump into the part where she just basically blames misogyny.
You know what? I think that if I can actually locate it, because my computer is not, my various tabs are not participating. I'm wondering if they actually. Wait, wrong computer. My God, that was really dumb. Okay, so I wanted to just read the summary of this, if I may, just to set the tone. All right.
All right.
In this episode of the Spoilt Girly Support Group podcast, host Manifestelle discusses the impact of lacking a father figure on women's self-esteem and boundaries. She addresses the misogynist notion of fatherless behavior and emphasizes that women should not be blamed for the actions of men. Manifestelle introduces the concept of the Home Depot dad as an archetype of a supportive father figure, encouraging women to envision how such a father would treat them and recognize their inherent value. The conversation culminates in a call for women to embrace their power and worth, shaping a future built on love and respect. So love and respect of what? Their worst selves, I guess. So Manifestelle is essentially saying that women should manifest the Home Depot dad in their own mind, which sort of is, it sounds a little bit like Guy Smiley's affirmations. It's going to be pretty meaningless. First of all, because one of the most important things that dads do is set boundaries. And I imagine this Home Depot dad that Manifestelle has manifested won't be setting any boundaries, won't be acting as an actual parental figure, telling Manifestelle, yeah, you look like crap. Don't wear that. Don't act like that. You're being your worst self instead of aiming to be your best self. No, I'm pretty sure that Home Depot dad, I'm sure, maybe I'll be wrong. Home Depot dad is just going to sign off and kiss her ass on everything she does.
Probably.
All right.
Let's find out.
What do you want me to start with? You want me to go right up to the Home Depot dad? Because that's like later. Okay, the Home Depot dad. We'll go right here.
But the Home Depot dad, okay? The Home Depot dad is the archetype of a dad who is always there for his children. He's the dad who builds things in the home, the dad who will drive to you no matter how far you are, the dad who will take you out of sketchy situations and situationships, the dad who treats you like
why would your dad do any of that? Like you want so essentially, actually, this is an interesting twist. I didn't predict this. So essentially the Home Depot dad is the Victorian dad who has that much authority over your life.
Well, it's not, though. She's not describing authority. She's describing ride or die.
Mm.
And I'm sorry, but if my dad had been ride or die, I'd be dead now. Like, my dad wasn't authoritarian, although I'm sure I had friends who really thought he was. But he was definitely not ride or die. Like, he gave me guidance. He did things like telling guys, no, my daughter's not coming out to meet you. She's not going out with you tonight. Go home. And he did that more than once, because when I was a teenager, I had shit for brains when it came, especially to dating for a while. And so what she's describing doesn't really, she thinks she's describing a good father, but there aren't really a lot of guys that are going to do that. Men are accountable. They recognize danger. They recognize dumb ideas, and they try to instill in their children, don't just do whatever you feel like. Evaluate your ideas to see if they're good ideas or bad ideas. And if they're bad ideas, especially if they're dumb ideas, don't do those things. Right? This is not what she's describing. Treats you like a princess. There's an example right there. So my grandfather treated me like a princess. He wanted me to be very ladylike. And so I kind of got the My Fair Lady treatment. A little bit, not the rude version of it, but he really tried. And I really didn't have all that inclination. I can do it when I work really hard. But he also pampered me like a princess. And he called me princess. That was his nickname for me. And my dad made sure that I was aware that in real life, in real kingdoms, real princesses have responsibilities, and they don't always get to decide to do everything they want. And they're actually responsible for all of the people around them because they have authority. And when you have authority, you're responsible for the people around you. It's, the whole with great power comes great responsibility talk, except without quoting Spider-Man. And I don't think that this woman understands any of that. What she's describing is a simp for a dad.
She's describing an enabler.
Yeah.
Essentially. You're right. So essentially her father just comes by and cleans up her messes.
Yeah.
She's
without suggesting that maybe here's ways to not make that mess the next time.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. So I think we got the picture here. Is there more to this particular? Shall we?
There's a little bit more to the time code, like another 30 seconds or so.
Good. Go ahead. Let's do it.
Okay.
Princess, like you have never known any other type of treatment because this is your dad. Okay, he's the dad who sets the bar so high that very few men can compare. The dad who just shows you through his actions.
Oh, she just admitted something.
How much you.
Well, let me finish the clip here.
Okay, but
all right, just to, I don't think she's. I just want to let her
loved
finish.
And can be loved, and it is such a privilege to have such a father. And like I said, we have zero control over who our parents are, who our fathers are. Like if we could choose, we would pick and choose the Home Depot dad package every single time. Okay.
All right. That's
all right, so
yeah, go ahead.
It wasn't really adding much, but okay.
Yeah, what's she admitted
well,
there?
I wanted to make sure that she said everything she was going to say. Just
fair
to make
enough.
sure.
You want to present integrity. That's good.
Right.
Yeah.
What she admitted there was in her search for a partner, she's not looking for a partner. She's looking to replace her childhood daddy with her grown-up daddy.
Honestly, when I listen to her, I can almost hear some Asian fathers screaming in the background.
Well, it's not that. It's her childhood daddy image. Whatever her real dad was like, her childhood daddy image is daddy does everything for daughter. Whether it's daddy pampers daughter, daddy teaches daughter, daddy does everything right, daddy does everything wrong. When she's looking for a partner in adulthood, the way she described the Home Depot dad and then said he sets the bar so high that other men can't compare, she's describing a simp who enables her and who financially pampers her, who does everything to cater to her whims and wishes, who, right? She's not looking for someone to mutually
a role model.
About.
Yeah.
What, and even a role model, like that would be a step up. She's looking for someone to serve her and to take the blame for everything that goes wrong in her life.
It's a bit of a theme with Manifestelle.
Yeah, but she's looking for somebody to be the responsible party in the relationship because she doesn't plan on doing that as part of her end of the relationship.
Well, I can only imagine if she has an actual dad, one of two reactions I could imagine. Either he is just disgusted with her, or He's proud of her for making so much money off of idiots. Like, I mean, it depends on how much of an ethical core, if she has a dad. But as a person who also had a dad, an involved dad, what she's describing is not a father who cares in a true way, because a father who truly cares equips his children with the ability, the means, and the skills and the virtues and the ethical basis to navigate life. Why were you in situationships in the first place?
Yeah.
Is it because you are shooting, you're punching above your weight? I mean, like a dad, like my dad would probably have said, hey, you're punching above your weight. You know, like, recognize that you're not a perfect 10, moderate your freaking expectations and go after something reasonable. But he's also Dutch, so I mean, very blunt human being. But he wouldn't like. But the thing is that the more I get older, the more I realize how much that's been helpful in my life, to not be in love with the idea of myself, shall we say, and how that's actually helped me navigate the world in a much better way than a lot of the women that I see, because the women that I've seen who follow the Manifestelle path, as soon as they can no longer, like, they hit the wall and then they can no longer manufacture the image that they haven't, their lives crater. And it's interesting because a lot of the times it almost seems like they don't even recognize how isolated they are, how much they've pushed everyone away with their behavior. You know, and how they've missed every opportunity simply because of fear of missing out. If I actually grab onto this opportunity, oh, there could be something even better. I'm going to imagine this better thing, instead of just swallowing your pride and saying, this is mine, let's get on with it. And you know, like, I think a real dad would teach you when to cut, you know, like when to fold them.
It was already stuck in my head when you said that.
Yeah, that's what a dad would teach you. Like a good dad, when to hold them, when to fold them, when to cut and run. You know, when to be just like, you know what,
know when to walk away, know when to run. Yeah,
this is the best deal I'm gonna get. Let's go forward with it. And I think that she invites women, and this Home Depot. You know, actually, I will call it Home Depot. This
home
I wonder how much
spot.
she was smoking when she came up with it.
This Home Depot dad that it's like, Home Depot. It's the dollar bin version of Home Depot. The Home Depot dad just like basically signs off on it. And really, that compulsive, the thing is that this is a kind of weird codependence she's constructed, where the men she wants to be with take an identity from constantly cleaning up after her, instead of facilitating her learning some level of self-reliance and independence. She wants these men to do everything for her. But here's the thing: if you are a spoiled gourdy and you've constructed your entire mentality around men doing shit for you, what happens when you don't get a man? Because you're not going to. Like, this woman is not going to get you a man. She's just going to keep telling you that you are owed a man who's going to fix everything in your life. He's going to fix your astigmatism. He's going to fix your weak left ventricle. He's going to fix your inability to just pee out that last teaspoon. He's going to fix the cat shoving her freaking tail in your face. He's going to fix everything in your life, right? That's what Manifestelle is saying. You got to hold out for the man who's going to fix everything. You got to demand that the man fix everything. He breathes and poops and eats for you. He's your life support system, and you only exist as a mere thought, a mere fart, mental fart, nothing else.
That's spelled THOT.
Yeah, I mean, you exist as a mental fart. You know, and
imagine
it's like, but let me finish. But imagine, in every way, You should deny your own ability, because any time that you have to take the least amount of responsibility or effort for yourself, that is some man making it life unfair for you. And then she invites women to live in that state, and she gives them the opposite of tools to find that life support system that she then makes almost critical for them, for their own existence. You see what I'm saying? She's constructing absolute need in women, and this kind of self-righteous belief of denying your own ability to affect any kind of positive outcome in your life, that you need, that you are owed all of this. You are owed a life support system. And then she gives them no ability to get one. So what happens when you listen to Manifestelle? You incorporate all of this into you, and no man comes to save you. You have become the human equivalent of protoplasm. Okay, I will shut up now.
No, it just makes me think of that hobbling scene from Misery. That's basically what she's doing. And imagine being someone who, say, when a problem comes up in your life, something sucks, and you have the Beavis moment. This sucks, change it. And you're not the person who steps up and actually does that. You have to wait because you're a woman and you can't fix it, because women don't fix their own stuff. You wait for a dude to come along and fix it for you. And if you're not satisfied with it, you just have to deal with it or whine at him until he changes the way he's doing it. So you can't, get a second job and pay your own bills. You can't learn to fix your car. You can't stop talking to somebody who's an asshole to you, because you have to have a guy fix it for you. And you have that in every aspect of your life. But most of all in your relationships. So you can't get into a relationship with a guy unless somebody comes along and fixes it for you. You can't pick Mr. Right unless somebody tells you who to date and what qualities to look for. And then he has to be responsible for your happiness. You can't make yourself happy. That would be the most miserable existence I could possibly imagine. I would rather die.
You get that feeling when you listen to these women, don't you? Although, I mean, like I said, Manifestelle's making bank.
Yeah, she is making bank, but
promoting misery.
I wonder if she's selling other people a bill of goods that she doesn't believe in, like, the drug dealer that doesn't use their own supply, or if she's more like the drug dealer that sells to support their habit.
Don't know. I mean, the camera could stop rolling and she pulls off the face, and it's just some wholesome, Asian waifu with a husband and 5 children.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, but I honestly wonder. And I think if it was an act, she'd have eyebrows. I'm gonna go back to this because so far she's kind of confirming my suspicions. She doesn't care about what she's talking about. You notice that she hasn't said anything about dads or partners in any way. That I looked for a guy that I wanted to take care of, not baby, but when I was dating, I wanted a partner that I would be mutually invested in, as invested in his welfare as he would be in mine. And I don't think she mentioned anything like that. She just, everything was about what can you do for me? Not, what can we do for each other? What can we be to each other?
Well, fair enough, but she has been just talking about a dad. The thing is that she fails to recognize that the most critical part of a father is the boundaries that you learn from him, not the gifts that you get from him.
Right.
But
boundaries and other characteristics. Like your dad teaches you responsibility and accountability. Your dad teaches you sportsmanship. Your dad teaches you try again over and over again until you get it done or get it right. There's a lot of things your dad, those are gifts.
Dad
By the way,
teaches you
those
how
are
to take criticism.
yeah, like a lot of gals will sit around and talk about things their dad gave them. I don't think so much of objects and wealth, physical wealth, material wealth. That my dad did what he could, and it was great, and everything. And I really appreciate everything he did. But the things I appreciate the most were those things where I learned life skills and character, things that would help me be a better person and do better in my life and do better in my relationships. Like those are the most important things.
Mm. Okay, so do we have another time code for this one, Brian?
Do you want me to just go to the next one? I mean, she does talk about how to make your own Home Depot dad, and then there's a section called Men
How
Hate.
to
How to
make
make your own Home Depot dad. Yes. And then
Oh,
there's a
gosh, I hope
section
she's not
called
starting with adopting some old guy that doesn't know you.
No, I
I
think it's
I
about like either trying to change your father into someone that is essentially going to help you get that bag while also securing your own bag, or it's about how to train the men in your life to be like that so that when you have children with them, because she did start this section by saying you can't choose your father, right?
Yeah.
But the truth is that your mother did choose your father. So are you attacking your mom when you criticize like the dads? Because that, I mean, obviously not. They didn't know. It's patriarchy covered their eyes. But
I
yeah,
don't know.
because
Like it's starting to feel like you do know. I mean, if the guy has two other baby mamas, you pretty
well,
much signed on to be the third.
obviously, yes, obviously, but she won't do that. Instead, we're just going to say that, you know, deadbeat men are the problem, and not that women choose to sleep with deadbeat men or have kids with deadbeat men, but just the fact that they exist. And yet, when women reward deadbeat men by having kids with them, then other deadbeat men will be like, well, I guess we're just going to get laid now because they're not picking based on their values or whether or not they're going to stick around. They're picking based on fifis and like, oh, I like the way he makes me tingle. I'm going to have sex with him unprotected. And if I have a kid, I'll have the government cover it. There's no consequences. So
Yeah,
the women are creating the problem. They're
yeah. I
creating the
mean,
problem and they're perpetuating the problem and they're just blaming men. And it's like, there's plenty of men who are like, well, look, I don't want to do any of that, but I can't get the time of day. But the men who are perpetuating that, they have no reason to stop or change their behavior. Why would
no,
they? They literally don't have to do it. So, yeah, I mean, I don't
yeah.
know. People are not going to learn. That's all I can say. They're not going to learn.
Well, no, they're not going to learn.
Yeah.
And part of fatherlessness behavior is a lack of impulse control.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like, and that's
And I
unfortunately
mean,
that.
I would bet that it's multi-generational. I would bet that girls with fatherless behavior have mothers who also exhibited fatherless behavior. And
Yep.
I
That's
would
how
think
they ended up with
that
fatherless children.
exactly. So like this is but we'll never address it because we don't want to hurt women's feelings. So,
Nope.
But anyway, let's do you want
No,
to get
we don't want to
into
hurt women's feelings. We just want them to be hurt.
yeah. Yeah.
Instead of actually criticizing women, we'll just let them fall off the cliff and dash themselves on the rocks below. That's the better outcome. That's the outcome that means you care about women. Ugh.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's
All right.
just continue.
I'm going to play the men hate good men section.
And I know that obviously a mother's love is also important and powerful, but we live in a world, in a society where young girls and women absolutely look to men, father figures, fathers, for validation, for reinforcement, for love and affection, especially if these young girls grow up to be women who date men. Like there's this
Okay.
saying
And it's
that
not,
people
she's not wrong.
No. Wait. What
Women,
did she leave out? What did she leave out? Let's go back again. I want you to listen to this. Okay? What is it she's expecting men are supposed to give to women?
where young girls and women absolutely look to men, father figures, fathers, for validation, for reinforcement, for love and affection.
So that's
she
it.
didn't mention any kind of guidance, and that's the thing. Like I don't think I ever looked to my dad for validation. I looked to him for guidance, and sometimes that guidance came in the form of, okay, you got it now, but it's not, you're a good person, you're the best, you're the smartest, you're the prettiest, whatever, women and girls look to their dads for validation about. It was, I'm satisfied with what you've done, or I'm particularly happy with what you've done. I'm glad that you got it. And I don't know, if you have to have validation from other people all the time, it's not a sign that you're trying to do the right thing. It's a sign that you're insecure.
Yeah, you're
Mm.
pathetic.
It's a difference between, it's vanity, right?
Mhm.
It's a
Yes.
difference between taking satisfaction in a job well done because you know that the effect that the job was created to have is going to take place. And I always use the same thing when I talk about this, cleaning a toilet, right? Because people think about jobs that are prestigious and they think about jobs that are high paying and stuff. When you clean a toilet, like I clean toilets as part of my job, and I do it the absolute best I can. When I get done, it's clean, it's shiny, and it doesn't stink. It doesn't have germs all over it. The next person who sits down isn't going to be thinking, gosh, I wish I didn't have to do this here, right? They won't have to think about the toilet. And that's pretty much my goal. I don't want somebody to come in and say, oh, look how beautiful the toilet is. Hannah did such a great job.
Mhm.
I don't want them to have to think about the toilet. And if your goal in life is to make yourself, instead of the job, the effects that the job you're doing are supposed to have, the important thing, the center, and the thing that people think about the whole time, in my opinion, you're a failure. Unless the job is entertaining people and getting them talking about you. Like, I would exclude, entertainers that are maybe, well, gosh, even singers, it's more about your voice. Instrument players, it's more about your instrument. Actors, it's more about the role you play. But the goal there you have to have that for PR, right? But for the most part, for most jobs, the goal is to have people be satisfied with what you did. And I think women miss out a lot on
Mhm.
that sense of satisfaction in their life. And they've replaced it with this narcissism where validation is important to them because they don't have that satisfaction, and it really holds them back. Right back to the misery cripple moment, where she breaks his leg or cuts it off or whatever. I didn't watch the movie because I had read part of the book, and it's one of the few books I couldn't stomach.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, you're
Misery
right.
is literally like what Tumblrinas that rewrite books that they
Yeah.
like. That's literally the main villain of that story. But anyway, I'm sorry, Allison. Go ahead.
No, it's okay. That's what I was thinking. And validation. Now, I think she's right. Women do look for men for validation. The problem is that I think what they're looking for is validation not in terms of you've done a good job, or this is well done, or these skills are up to snuff, that kind of thing. They're looking
Yeah.
for validation the way they look for validation from women, which is, we are all good right now, having done nothing. We're all wonderful. And maybe part of the reason why women feel that men are cold is because I don't think men do validation like that. That, oh, we're all fine, we're all great, we're all perfect tens, we're all beautiful, we're all sparkly. They don't do that kind of like lukewarm, frankly meaningless, in my opinion. Maybe it isn't. Maybe there's something about that development of like this kind of warm sociality that is important. I don't quite see it, but then I'm an autist, so don't quote me on that. But but you're probably not going to get it from men, because I think you listen to Brian go, and I think men are inherently disgusted by it. And it's because it doesn't have that component of earning. Like you have to earn it. You have to develop a skill. You have to demonstrate a skill. You have to be good at something to have earned that sense of personal worth. And it's like, when we look at this woman, you have to realize that that entire avenue for developing personal worth is gone for her, like gone. And the other thing is that she relies for personal worth on a source that will inevitably fail her. That's why we call it hitting the wall, right? She will at one point have no source of personal worth, and she will have constructed a persona very much reliant on it, very much about denying learning any kind of self-reliance. So, and that's the thing, like, you base your personal worth on this kind of fatuous praise. You get that fatuous praise because you are attractive and young and you're a woman. When that ends, what's left, right? And she is encouraging women to only base their self-worth on this kind of fatuous praise and what they can get men to do for them, not what they can do for themselves. So when they hit that moment when it no longer works, what then? And she doesn't, like, she either, maybe she does recognize this and she actually develops that secondary engine secretly without telling her viewership about it, but that makes her effectively a con artist, right? Or she hasn't developed that second engine. But what then? What happens when Manifestelle looks like an Asian grandma? All right. And she has developed no skills, no abilities, no virtues, no wisdom, nothing. She's just an old, wrinkly woman with this attitude.
Yeah.
She is going to be, it's interesting because people talk about incels, but I guess a woman in this kind of this society where everything is very atomized, who develops absolutely nothing, no other value proposition than her looks. What happens to her when those looks fade? Right? That sounds to me like it's the inverse of an incel. And that is her future. And that's the future of all the women that listen to her. That's your future. You're going to be alone, you're going to be ugly, and you're going to have nothing. And you will have pushed away everyone in your life, including the women. All right.
All right, I got a super chow from Zeranx for $5. He says, if women receive guidance, does it look like said guidance took? I keep remarking about how much worse so many women are compared to the girls they used to be when they would be grounded or lose privileges. It's like they bided their time to when they aren't held by the rules of their fathers.
That may be because they didn't have dads. Or it may be because their moms undermine their dads. And there's two ways that I see that happening among other women. And I've seen it happening growing up as a kid among the mothers of my friends. Like my mom, if my dad put his foot down on something, if I went whining to my mom, she would add a punishment on top of that for me trying to go behind his back. Your dad told you this. You tried to come and turn me against your father on this. No, now you're gonna, scrub the kitchen floor. Like you cannot do that. And there are a lot of times where women will just treat their husband like he's too harsh. Your punishment's too harsh. You don't do that in front of your kid. If you really disagree with them and you have something to say, you wait until the kids are away and you ask questions and make suggestions, and then you let it stand. If he doesn't change his mind, you let it stand. Because if you don't, you teach your daughter that authority doesn't matter, and that when she encounters consequences for her actions, there's going to be a rescue. And it's really a bad thing to teach a kid. And like, you can't do that to a girl if you want her to grow up and be able to live her life without essentially facing a bunch of consequences that she can't escape because she expects to be able to escape them and does stupid things. It's really dangerous to do that, and it's like, I noticed somebody in one of our chats talking about, his daughters are his heroes. And the first thing I thought is, God, I hope they're adults. And it looks like they are, because one's an ER nurse and the other one started her own business. So, okay, you can call them that as adults. That's one thing. But when you say that to your 6-year-old who hasn't done anything yet, what you're telling her is she doesn't have to have any character in order to get credit for having character. She doesn't have to learn math in order to get an A in math. She doesn't have to, become a nice person in order for people to have to treat her like she's a nice person. You can be somebody's hero without doing anything heroic. And therefore, you don't have to put in any effort. And it's the worst thing you can teach a girl, because you teach a boy that as he's growing up, the world outside of your home is going to knock him on his ass enough times. He's still going to learn the right lesson. But if you teach a girl that, every time the world outside tries to do that to her, she's going to get somebody else in trouble for it. And so she's going to run around as a bull in a china shop in other people's lives, and she will never learn. And she will make herself miserable, and then she will make everyone else around her miserable. And then she will get to be my age, and she'll be single, have no children, have 27 cats, and wonder why she's not happy.
Yep. Most freest generation of women in human history, most miserable generation of women in human history. We freed women. We forgot to tell them that you need to take responsibility for your own choices, because you're the only one who can. All right. So you know what? I just put this Natty Gaddafi in like a timeout.
Why?
She's being very insulting. And for some reason, YouTube just deleted her messages, which was really unintentional. I don't know why that YouTube would do that. Why not just allow your people to moderate, but not delete their messages?
Yeah, I suppose it's a blanket thing. They assume if you stop somebody from commenting, they must have said something really inappropriate. But...
Okay, all right. So
all right, I got another super chow from Urashima, who gave us $10 and said, "Hey, finally a stream I can catch live. Too bad it's about this absolute waste of perfectly good carbon atoms. I wonder what her relationship status is." We don't know, but we assume that she does have a man. So again, I wouldn't.
Why do we assume that?
Well, I wouldn't assume that, but if she does, I would wonder if she's emotionally abusing him.
I mean, it's possible, but the thing is, like, men will put up with a lot of bullshit to be in a relationship. So, like, I'm saying, let's not presume that she is incapable of being in a relationship. Like, we don't know. We can only speculate. So what I'm saying is, she might be. She's not interested. Like, she doesn't have a ring, but that's like, she doesn't seem like the type that wants to get married until the man is absolutely perfect. Like, she's basically from the school of thought as the female dating strategy. Okay, so this is as cutthroat and mercenary as it gets. This doesn't mean that she doesn't have a man, because there is a simp born every minute, and she's probably got more than one man. She's probably got orbiters taking her out on dates, buying her stuff, treating her to the town. And of course, they think that she's the prize because she has so many options and they want to win. So that's possible. So let's not engage in, I guess, like, speculative, assumptions about her, like, being alone and angry and gonna end up with cats, because honestly, evil people win all the time. So she could end up married with a bunch of kids and have a really great life and just be this absolute bitch too. I mean, it's entirely possible. So do not underestimate simps. Full stop. And
yeah, this is actually
it's true. Like, I mean,
one of the things that needs to change dramatically.
Yeah.
Men talk about, how can we fix women? How can we fix women? And I just went on a rant about that on X yesterday or day before, sometime recently. You can't fix women. Okay, women's problems are not caused by external factors. Women's problems are internal. Women are safety net addicted, and they are entitlement addicted. And a lot of it is that, they haven't ever learned to be different than that. A lot of them have never grown up. They've never matured. Maybe they didn't have the upbringing that you had. In fact, if you're male, they definitely had nothing like the upbringing that you had. And they don't have any reason to understand life the way that you understand life. And so if you try to fix women, all you're going to do is get spat on and stepped on and treated like a threat. Women have to fix themselves. And the only way to deal with that, to allow that to happen, is to do the same thing that you have to do with a drug addict, right? Stop paying women to make stupid choices. Stop paying their bills. Stop enabling them. Step back and give women the space they need to fall on their asses and then have to sit there and think about, how did this happen? How did I end up here? What do I do now? And figure out that they need to do better themselves, that they can't just rely on entitlements and safety nets, that they have to act like adults. And it's going to be generational. It's going to take more than a whole generation for women to go anywhere near back to being the kind of partners that they were before feminism, before the level of gynocentrism that we see now. If you've got daughters, raise them like their sons in every way that matters, every way that develops character. You still have to raise them like they're the ones that have the keys to the uterus, right? But raise them like a boy that has the keys to the uterus, that's responsible for guarding it, and not the person who's vulnerable to having it used against their will, right? The keys to the castle where the children are living, because that's what women used to be, and women can be that again, but you can't make it happen. Women have to do that. Women have to be responsible for themselves.
I think that we're starting to see that more and more with the number of men who are just opting out of dating entirely. I mean, that's just going to get worse. And the thing is that it's almost like it's self-correcting as women like Manifestelle go on YouTube and promote her attitude. There are more men, like, I guarantee that Manifestelle has ensured that a good percentage of the female population will remain single, because men look at this and they say, no, I don't want it at all.
So should we move on? Should we move on to the next video? Because we've been going from this one for a while.
Yeah, I guess so. So there's no other time code in it that's...
there could be, but I mean, we got 3 other videos and you guys chattered quite a bit on this, just a little bit of this video. So I don't know how much time we can give to the other parts. I mean, maybe
all right,
y'all knew how verbose I was before you asked me to come on and do this. So
I know how verbose you are, but Allison's the one that said, let's do 4 videos. Fuck it. Fuck it. Let's just do like the Lord of the Rings trilogy of videos.
Okay, all right, fine. We'll go to the next
What
video.
is time? Time? What is that even? Okay.
It's that thing I don't have.
Okay, so next one, let me pull it up.
So we got women's wholesome obsession with sex workers. The village disappeared. Now what? And I married a monster.
Let's go to women's wholesome obsession with sex workers.
Okay. All right. This one is also pretty cringe. So I'll read the summary and we'll see. We'll go to okay. I just wanted to find the time codes too. So, because this one doesn't have chapters. She's a little inconsistent on putting chapters in. So the summary is, this conversation explores the rise of 304 talk, which is talk is in TikTok, and 304 is in ho. I don't know why people don't want to just be direct and say the thing that we're talking about. Instead, they talk around it. Like, why are we doing that? It's like saying the N-word. You're putting the word in my mind when you say that. So like, what are we even pretending to do? But anyway, the normalization of sex work in contemporary culture, particularly through platforms like TikTok. The discussion delves into the complexities of empowerment versus exploitation within the sex work industry, examining historical context, cultural perceptions, and the intersectionality of experiences among workers. The host emphasizes the importance of recognizing shared experiences among women, because that's what it's always about, regardless of their roles, and challenges societal stigmas surrounding sex work.
Okay. I before we get into this, I just want to point out that I believe Manifestelle was one of the people who piled on that homemaker because of the egg apron.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? So this man, there was a homemaker, the egg apron gate. I'll explain it to you, Hannah. There is a homesteading woman who used to be a ballerina, and she left being a ballerina to stay at home to create a farm to raise children,
start a family, like live on a farm. Yeah.
And her husband, for her birthday, got her an egg apron, and she was thrilled to get this egg apron. And Manifestelle and all of her, and the host of harpies descended on this woman and her egg apron and said it was a sign of oppression that her husband got her a practical item related to her chosen vocation, which was homesteading, right? Because she wants to pick eggs for her family's breakfast. And it wasn't even like just a random egg, he just threw it in a car. He actually found this egg apron in like Europe. So it was a very specific, and even referred to it as your egg apron. So this obviously was something that she wanted, that she expressed at some point, that he picked up on and got it to her for her birthday.
So here's the thing.
Despite all that, this woman said that that was a sign of oppression. And now we're going into talking about how sex work is like, that was bad. That woman receiving an egg apron was bad. But sex work, that we were going to be okay with that.
I just have to point out, buying her that egg apron wasn't just getting her something she liked. It wasn't even getting her something really special or expensive that she liked. It was, I support the choice that you've made.
Yes.
It was exactly the thing that she just said. That was validation. And she couldn't recognize it because what was being validated was work.
Yes. Her husband recognized that this was an important job to her, recognized that there was a specific tool she wanted to use that job, remembered all that, and got it for her on her birthday. And she could, and the crowd of harpies couldn't understand it at all. But now we're going to go in, and not just that, we're going to talk about how sex work is somehow less exploitative than that man getting his wife an egg apron. I'm just pointing that out. I'm just pointing out where we're at here with this nonsense, with this freaking conversation. Okay, go ahead, Brian.
All of feminism is basically you justify any decision that a woman makes as long as it does not involve men or family, and you justify it, and then you have to work backwards to actually rationalize it. That's all it is. That's what she's doing.
Well, and everything men do has to be wrong.
Yeah, everything men do is bad.
Great.
All of that.
Still, there has to be something wrong with it.
Wow,
you can scream to the heavens, I want validation, I want validation. Okay, here's your validation. You validated the wrong thing in the wrong way.
Why do I need your validation? How dare you think I need your validation? Like it's endless.
Yeah.
Who is this Natty Gaddafi?
That's Natty, Allison.
Oh, because I was thinking she doesn't have much in terms of staying powder. But her name is Natty, not Nat. Yeah. Oh, right.
It's fucking Natty, Allison. And when you blocked her, you just validated her. By the way, she's going to basically like champion on the streets. We should have just left it up and just left her alone. But
give her a timeout because she was just she was coming in with constant like 2 insults in a row. Like I would undo it, but I don't know how because YouTube is being a dick. Like, okay, if you're listening to this,
because I'm watching the chats, but YouTube I have it on live chat, and then after a period of time, YouTube switches it back to top chat. Like, if that's
Mhm.
what I wanted, that's what I would have selected.
Mm.
Well,
Wrong with
yeah.
YouTube.
Okay, so I got a super chow from Mr. Playlist Man, who gave us $50. Thank you, Mr. Playlist Man. Really appreciate it. He says, "Hello, Badgers. I sent this message to a home math stream and want to know your thoughts. I got a situation. A friend of mine was taken advantage of, graped, because her drink was spiked. She refuses to report the name of the guy to authorities, saying they won't believe her. Feminists talk plenty about grape culture. I noticed her reasons not to report were their talking points a decade ago. This seems to help the rapist." I'm just gonna say rape, okay? This is like really annoying. I feel like
Yeah,
I'm an 11-year-old. Do you think they were aware that their activism would actually enable victimizers to get away more frequently? Well,
They
yeah, I
don't care.
think that
Yes.
So
it is because they want to
Okay.
perpetuate it so that they can claim that it exists. So yeah, that's
Okay.
on purpose. Like the people who put these policies and these studies out here and all this like bullshit propaganda funded by the fucking CIA, by the way, they do that on purpose because it creates more instances so they can further justify doing more of this shit and getting more money. So yeah,
All right.
it's totally by design. They're safe from this stuff, by the way. It's not going to happen to them.
I need to answer to this
Okay.
because this is something that okay. Yes. And in fact, feminists have specifically chosen to increase or maintain the rate of rape in order to promote their ideology. And I will say that outright. There was a time in the 80s where the work into this field was more in psychology and sociology. It wasn't dominated by feminists. And feminists had a discussion over whether or not to promote interventions which would potentially reduce the rate of rape, but ran counter to their ideology. And of course, the ideology won. So they literally blocked and refused to support or promote interventions that would have reduced the rate at which women were raped because it didn't fall in line with their ideology. They put their ideology first ahead of women. And when I realized this, and then there was another piece that fell into place after the Amber Heard trial, when there was a feminist director of an NGO who said that the trial was a bad trial because they didn't get in the funds that they wanted. And I realized that all of this is to promote their ideology and promote their ability to make money and have clout as a result of that ideology. And furthermore, I can speak specifically to the situation that your friend is in. No, the authorities will take it seriously. And in fact, rape in the US is prosecuted and ends in a conviction 8 times more than any other violent crime. 8 times. So other violent crimes end in conviction 2%. Like I mean, and the process is difficult, right? It's not going to be easy. And maybe that's one of the things that are pushing her away. But the idea that she is not going to get a conviction is ridiculous. Of course, the window has closed to find out whether or not she was indeed subject to a date rape drug. So it's going to be difficult now. But the idea that women cannot get convictions for sexual assault is an unbelievably nasty feminist fiction. If you report and if it is credible and if it is actually a crime, you are more likely to get a conviction for sexual assault than any other crime in the UK and in the US. Bam. So don't listen to the feminists. Do indeed report it, and do not listen to any men who say, "Oh, well, I'm just doing what all men do." No, bullshit. Rapists know what they are. They are specifically looking for rape. If you don't want to do it for yourself, do it for the next woman or man, because a lot of rapists are indiscriminate, right? So this is pernicious bullshit. The feminists, in their pursuit of power and money, have made the world worse for women. And that just blew my flipping mind when I realized it. I'm like, it's one thing for feminists not to advocate for men. Yeah, I think it's horrible, of course, because I am a men's issues advocate. But at the same time, if they want to specialize, so be it. But then I realized the only reason why they specialize in women is because women make a tasty steak when they're slaughtered. That's it. They specialize in women because women make money for them. They're freaking madams, pimps. It's unfreaking believable. And that the idea that they don't even care about women. All right, fine. They don't care about men. That's par for the course. But they don't even care about women. They use women and women's causes to make money for themselves. Okay. Sorry.
All right.
This
So I
is
also
really-
have something to say
Sorry.
about this, and it's probably not going to be very popular, but there have been a couple of studies into the whole date rape drug phenomenon, and the overwhelming majority of the time, when a gal thinks that she has been subjected to a date rape drug, she actually just drank more than she realized or paid
Yeah.
attention to, and did something she shouldn't have done, and is now blaming it on a guy. And it's not that it's wise to have sex with somebody who's been drinking. And
it's not
frankly, I wouldn't advise hookup culture at all. But don't, unless you really know, like somebody saw this girl get drugged, and then somebody else, another witness can attest to the fact that the rape happened and that it was somebody taking advantage of her being incapacitated. Because if you had the experience that I have, like I grew up in an area where drinking was very frequent and common among young people. Like you've heard probably of the Steubenville case from back in 2012 where Anonymous got involved. I grew up in Northwest Ohio, not Northeast Ohio, but that whole area of the state, and probably the southern part of the state as well, it's very largely a teen drinking culture and has been for decades. And I've seen lots of gals who will have a few beers or several and then grab the nearest guy by the shirt, drag him off to another room and fuck him. And I hate to be that blunt, but that's the fact. And, some of the gals I went to college with behaved that way for a few years and then took gender studies and then came out of it and went, oh my God, I've been raped like 37 times. No, you haven't. If it was your idea and you grabbed that guy by the shirt and dragged him off into a room and fucked him, he didn't do something to you. Your actions still matter even if you're drunk. That's not just a standard that applies to men. So I don't want to hear this chick is a victim until there's evidence. And if she took measures to avoid the evidence, waited until it was too late, refused to go to the cops, to me that indicates that the evidence doesn't support what she's saying. And I don't know your friend, you know your friend, you know whether you can trust her or not. And I don't. But I do know that most of the gals that I have had experience with, I wouldn't believe them if they told me that story. I would think maybe they believed it, but it might not necessarily be true. And a lot of times they believe it because, like Allison talked about, that's that narrative that feminists give them. But they don't necessarily believe it because that's what happened.
There's that, but then there's also the possibility because sometimes it is.
Sometimes it is what happened, but it
is what happened, and now
a much tinier percent.
There's no way to determine that because she didn't go to the police because feminists told her that she won't get a fair shake.
Yeah, just from my perspective, in an unknown case, like say I know absolutely nothing else about the case. I know nothing about the gal. I know nothing about the people involved. There's a much larger chance that it's a situation where there was no rape. And, maybe there wasn't even any sex. There's been a couple of instances where gals have thought that they had been sexually assaulted when nobody touched them. And it's just, they woke up next to a guy who was also passed out.
So Mr. Playlist Man has sent a few more super chows. Maybe we should read them.
I'd like
too.
to read those. Okay. So Mr. Playlist Man sent a super chat for 10 and said, sent a super chow. Appreciate you guys. That was the one we just read and responded to. And then he sent another super chat that says, thanks, Allison. I tried to make the same arguments with helping/saving the next victim, but she couldn't bring herself to go, and our relationship ended because of it. Well, that sounds like she doesn't really care about other victims then, because I
Well-
mean, what at the very least you should report based on the fact that you don't want this person to harm somebody else in the future. But if you don't report because feminists are convinced, they've convinced you that it's pointless, that seems like you are so concerned that you'll look bad because you may have, filed a report pointlessly, which is basically just you protecting your own ego instead of protecting somebody else, assuming that this is all legit and you're not just full of shit, or you have not somehow convinced yourself that something happened that may not have happened. I don't know. I mean, I'm just saying at the end of the day, put your ego aside and do the right thing. That's what you have to do. If you don't do that, then I don't have a lot of sympathy. So anyway, then he gives another super chat for 5 and says, for context, she used to be an ex and it happened 2 months after I moved out. Okay. Thank you for that. I don't know if there's anything else here. Super Chow. No, I
So
read
she
everything.
went to her ex and said, "Oh, I was raped." That's what that sounds like. Which,
well, maybe they were friends
Yeah.
afterwards or whatever, but
if that can be a situation where the woman is trying to get him to white knight for her and come back because he feels like the knight in shining armor that's coming
Yeah,
to
this is
rescue
sketch.
her from the terrible situation.
This is
It's not
sketch.
always the thing. Like sometimes that can still be legitimate, if you stayed friends and you were, but there's another aspect to this that I'm going to point out. So feminists have been saying for at least 70 years that girls who go get drunk at parties, this happens to them and nobody cares. All right. So when I was growing up and I was in school, even though I was stupid about which guys I dated, I didn't go get drunk at parties. Right. I hung out with gals that did. And I even went to a couple of parties, but I didn't go get drunk at parties. And I didn't go as a single gal either, because, you get told that you go get drunk at a party, this might happen to you. If you don't want that to happen to you, then you don't go get drunk at a party. That's if you know you're at risk. Just like if I thought a high percentage of people who got on a bicycle broke their neck, I'd never ride a bicycle. I don't ride a motorcycle because of the number of accidents that happen with motorcycles that are fatal. Or, well, I've worked in healthcare and I've taken care of some people that have had catastrophic motorcycle accidents, and you couldn't pay me to get on one of those things, especially not in city traffic. But in any case, that's the way that I figure I would act. No, I'm not going to do this because it's too risky. So when women hear all their lives, if you go into this environment and you behave this specific way, it creates a high risk that you're going to get hurt. And then they go into that environment and they behave that way. It's not proof that they wanted to get hurt, but it's just about the stupidest and most careless thing you can do. And it goes right back to my statement about stop paying women to make stupid choices, right? Stop cleaning up after girls. Stop coddling them. Raise them to make better choices. If you love your daughters, if you love your sister, if you love your female friends, teach them to make better choices. Show an expectation that they make better choices. Encourage them to not get hurt. Instead of cleaning up the mess all the time.
Okay, so we've sort of derailed this into like the I mean, it's not a bad thing at all, because this is stuff
Right.
that needs to be taken. Although I think one of the other videos is more topical to this particular super chat. I think that what's happening, Mr. Playlist Man, is a little sketch. I'm actually curious what Homath said about it. If you want, you can just send a message in the chat window. I think we should finish off this video, because we're going to be here forever.
Okay, so
All right.
this is about the sex work. So she is basically saying women who are not sex workers, and she includes herself in this, are just like all about this 304 talk, where sex workers talk about like how much money they're making and stuff like that. So
And I think we are getting to the part of awakening where we are seeing that as women, we are no different than the quote unquote 304s who participate in S work or FS work. Because under patriarchy, we are all women, we are all housewives, and we are all S workers. In a world where, in general, men sexualize women at every interaction, it goes to show that
Actually,
these interactions
Manifestelle,
with men.
you can solve this problem easily. Just pay for the man.
Yeah.
Just pay for the man's time. Have a house husband. Get yourself a younger man who will appreciate you paying for his hobbies and his food, and his entertainment. There, now you're not a sex worker. I'm guessing
yeah,
you
but
don't like
she
that.
doesn't want to fix any problems.
No,
That's
she
not
doesn't
what this
want.
is about.
She's not going to tolerate the fix.
She doesn't recognize the agency in the situation. All right. Men don't sexualize women. Very, very, very few men in the world ever sexualize women. Men respond when women sexualize themselves. Women sexualize themselves all the time, right? It's a constant process, and some of it's instinctive, and some of it's a response to liking the attention they get, right? And some of it is just women like sex too, and women should be allowed to make those choices for themselves, all right? But if you're going to make those choices for yourself, you don't get to blame somebody else when you don't like the outcome. So if you're not cut out to be a sex worker, don't complain when you act like a sex worker and you get treated like a sex worker, right? And then at the same time, if you're not a sex worker and you're living vicariously through one, oh, look at all the attention this woman gets. I would love to have that same attention. I don't have the constitution or the stoicism to do that job and get that attention and enjoy that reward. I would be miserable. And that's like, I wouldn't want to do that job. I would be miserable. Okay. So I haven't tried it, and I'm not obsessed with doing that job because of that. I think most people are not cut out to do that job. I think most people that do that job are not cut out to do that job. And so you don't get to live vicariously through them and then call them victims. You don't get to live vicariously through them and then play victim of their lives, right? You be who you are, and you enjoy your life, and you let them be who they are and make their own decisions and deal with the consequences or get the rewards or whatever, and leave it at that. But she doesn't understand any of that agency, and instead she has to create a victim narrative and then blame men for women's choices. Everything she's talking about there is women making decisions what to do with their own bodies, right? Women making decisions what to do in terms of their own relationships, and women making choices in what kind of work they're going to do, how they're going to earn their money. Nothing in that is men's fault. Nobody hooked you around the neck and forced you to become a porn star. All right. You either do it or you don't. Don't be jealous if somebody else does it. And don't be treating men like they're to blame for some victim-y experience if somebody else does it.
Some victim-y victim.
Yeah. Victimitis.
The victim.
Information of the victimhood.
What I think she's doing is, again, this is the same thing. Deploy feminist logic, then work backwards to justify it. So essentially, sex work is real work. This is what her claim is. Therefore, because it's women that are involved, we must support them, even if we ourselves wouldn't do it. How do we do that? Well, we have to make them relatable. How do we make them relatable to, how do we make prostitutes, let's just call it what it is. How do we make prostitutes relatable to regular women, like mothers and like regular women that don't want to engage in that? Oh, I know. We'll say they're all the same under patriarchy. Well, how does that work? One of them is chosen to be a wife and a mother, and the other one's chosen to be a hoe bag. Well, why don't we just say that all wives and mothers are actually hoes as well? And that all hoes are mothers in some way. And then we'll say we're all the same because men. So this is what she is trying to do. This is basically we're all in the sisterhood, guys. No woman makes a bad choice unless, of course, she's a pick-me, in which case she is exiled from the sisterhood. But you can do all the other things. You can be a complete, prostitute, make lots of money off of men. That means you're exploiting them, but also you're a victim of them because of reasons. She goes into like things like why, it should be like legalized so that women don't get pimped out or whatever. The criminalization is victimizing women, and all this other stuff. And so like that's basically the concept. The concept is all women are the same, no matter what their job is, because patriarchy. That's her argument. I'm not making that argument. I'm explaining her position. I'm explaining feminist logic.
Yeah, I know. Okay.
Okay.
I just want to point something out here. All right. So you have all of these women, like that Manifestelle represents, saying that all these women, they're sitting in this, I don't know, puddle of shit, just sitting there in the puddle of shit, basting in their puddle of shit, which is apparently sex work, which is the exchange of their sex for stuff from men. And then you have pick-me's like me who are like, well, why don't you just get out of the puddle of shit and just have an equal exchange with a man? Therefore, you're not engaging in sex work. You're actually creating a relationship. Or God forbid, maybe you spend more on a man than he spends on you. Then therefore, you're not in your puddle of shit. You're not basting in your pile of shit. You're not spreading manure all over, because you guys are saying, oh, this is such exploitation. Oh, I'm so exploited, as you smear the shit on yourselves by choice. Just get out of the shit pile. All right? Just have some integrity. Split things down the middle. Go Dutch. Pay for your own bills. Then you're not in the shit pile. And then you're just standing there watching this, and you're like, well, just get out of this. And they call you a pick-me. Well, but you're the one saying that you're in a pile of shit. Like, I don't get that. It's like this is a pile of shit. It's so horrible. I can't believe I'm just in this shit. So just get out of it then. Like, you're saying, oh, it's so exploitative. Well, then just don't engage with men in that way. I'm pretty sure you can find a man who's happy to just go Dutch. Just split everything 50-50, and then you're not a sex worker. The end. Get out of your pile of shit. And and then they just sit there in their pile of shit and call me a pick-me for choosing not to get in the pile of shit that they say is a pile of shit. I don't understand this behavior. Perhaps I had too much testosterone in the womb. I think that's probably what's going on here.
Well, you weren't raised to make the mistakes that would make someone believe that this behavior is understandable. And with her, it's even worse because she's not in the pile of shit. She's pointing to women who are doing a job that she doesn't do and assuming that for them, it's being in a pile of shit. But you don't know that. Some women get very upset if you accuse them of being victimized because they are, and it is an accusation, by the way, because they're sex workers. Some women will tell you that they do that job because they like the attention and they're exhibitionists and they make money at it, and then they consider it a win-win. And that's their business. It doesn't matter whether other people approve of it or not. It's a transaction between them and the people who buy their services or products or whatever. And that goes across porn, that goes across actual intimacy, that everything. I've run into that with escorts that I've talked to. I've run into that with women who are porn stars. I've run into that with women who think of their commitments as more artistic. And it's not a matter, in regard to what she's talking about. It matters not, right? What matters is she's defining their experience for them based on her sensibilities. Oh, these poor women that are stuck doing this. And so she's not making them relatable. She's refusing to relate to them and relating instead to what she's comfortable relating to, and then bending her perception of them around it. And it'd be similar to, how communists treat retail workers. And when I've had conversations with communists about my time in retail, because I have about 25 years in retail before I went back into healthcare, and a lot of it was unpleasant, and a lot of it was pleasant. But I've had people try to convince me that whole time I was getting paid to do a job that I went and applied for so that I could work in that environment and make that money, that I was enslaved. Nobody chained me to the cash register or the Turbo Chef oven, and the various other things that nobody chained me to that. Nobody came to my house, dragged me out of my bed, said, get over to this gas station and wait on these people, right? I went in and did that by choice and then get called a slave. That's very demeaning. And I would never do that to people who are in sex work either. If they want out and they don't like it, there are lots of organizations out there to help. And if they remain in and they like the job and they want to do it, it would be really arrogant to turn around and say, well, these people are victims, and they just don't realize it. They're enslaved. They're making choices. Stop belittling them like that. And this woman is belittling other women for not womaning right. And she doesn't even realize it.
Well, that maybe not. Or maybe she does. Maybe this is like 5D Manifestelle chess.
I don't know.
I don't think she's stupid. I think she knows she's lying.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that she's stupid either.
No.
But it's just really, if you don't want to be a sex worker, if you don't want to extort stuff from men, just deal with them honestly. And I guarantee not only the thing is that what's keeping them in the shit pile is their own choice. And if they ever chose to say, hey, you know what? I stink of shit. Maybe I'll get out and wash myself off and just deal fairly with men. We'll just split it down the middle. If we jibe, then we'll try to start a life, make it easy. And they would probably get a man much quicker than basting in a pile of pig shit will get them a man. No offense, ladies, just have you considered not doing that? So I can't see how men are applying the pig shit pressure for women. I just don't see it. But anyway, is there another good time code in this one?
Well, let me see. So 3. She goes to the history of sex work. I don't think it really matters much. Let's go to the intersectionality. That's let's get into the real commie gobbledygook. 1140, maybe right about here.
And broader reach. And so this history section gets us into the debate of whether S work is empowering or exploitative. And honestly, it's complicated. People who argue
it's a
that
false
S work is
dichotomy,
empowering
actually.
point to
Something doesn't have to be empowering because it's not exploitative. It could be just neither, right? It's like asking if working as a sewer maintenance worker is empowering or exploitative. It's a job.
Yeah. All right, let's keep going.
to these reasons. Number one is autonomy and agency. So people who say that S work can be a form of personal empowerment. They believe that S work allows individuals to exercise agency over their own bodies and how they choose to earn a living. And I want to emphasize the word choice.
Every job does
here.
that.
Yes, being a freaking homemaker. How is it that being a homemaker is exploitation, but sex
you're
work
not-
isn't?
Again, feminist logic, okay? According to feminist logic, sex work, you get paid for it. Housework, you don't get paid for it, even though you're
Except
getting
that
a
you
home
do.
and a family but again, that let's not explain the thing that they're lying about as though they're going to say, "Oh shit, I never considered that." No, obviously
No.
they know they're lying, but the claim is, or it's built on this false idea that a woman who is married to a man is being exploited by her man if she's even engaging in, like, wifely duties, which is not really a thing that we see most of the time. People just share in the chores. And if you lived alone as a woman, you'd have to do those chores anyways. So it's not like a man magically creates work for you to do. But that's not the point. The point is that she's lying. And so we have to accept that this is a lie. And I'm going to say that instead of calling her stupid, because I think calling her stupid is, number one, it gives her an out, and number two, it's a bit insulting. When you call her a liar, I think you're being more precise. So I'm just going to go with lie. And that's yes, obviously. And she's also sort of like, she is technically describing what pro-sex feminists say, but she's not really disagreeing with them. So she's presenting it like, well, this isn't my opinion, but I don't have a problem with it, right? So it's like giving her a bit of plausible deniability as well, because she does acknowledge in the beginning
what she's doing right there. It is kind of she's implying that you're only making a decision about what to do with your own body if the decision is in regard to sexual behavior. So when I choose to take a job, and one of the tasks in that job, let's go back to toilet scrubbing, right, involves taking cleaner and towels and paper towels and a scrub brush and going to town on a toilet. That's me choosing what to do with my own body, right? I'm exposing myself to germs. I'm exposing myself to smells and grossness, and I'm doing manual labor. That's a choice. That's all choices. I don't have to take that job. I have done a whole bunch of different jobs. I've worked in a bakery. I've worked in other retail areas. I've worked in other healthcare areas. Right now I'm a direct support professional for intellectually disabled adults. So I do housekeeping as part of my job, right? But I've done healthcare where you don't do housekeeping. And all of that, you can choose from an unending supply of jobs. You can create your own job. I used to crochet jewelry and sell it to other women. Stuff that I wouldn't wear because it was too frivolous, that other women would pay $80 for and wear. And, you do what you do. And you make those choices. Every single one of those things is a choice what to do with your own body. But feminists only talk about it that way when they're talking about sex. So they're elevating sex and separating sex out as a thing that when women make those choices, there's somehow much more agency or empowerment or whatever they want to call it.
Or exploitation.
Or exploitation at the other end of it, that it's not a choice when they do that, right? If I choose to do a job where I'm scrubbing toilets as opposed to a job where I was giving blowjobs, that's a choice, but the other one isn't, right? And it's just compartmentalism for the sake of justifying attitudes and behaviors that are maybe not otherwise justifiable.
I think that they understand their value proposition. They understand that their sexuality is their value proposition. And they're just going to lean into it as much as possible. I think they're also coon-brained. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
This is a lot of coon-brain bullshit. The thing is that women's coon brain doesn't look like men's coon brain. Women's coon brain is true crime. Women's coon brain is grape You know, it's this obsession with their
Those
sexuality.
rapey romance novels. Yes.
Yeah, so
Romance.
this is a combination of these women do not conceive, and this is fatherlessness behavior. They don't conceive of having a value outside of their sexuality. I mean, that really, let's get it down to it. A father is a man who models you developing a value outside of your sex, because he doesn't value you for that, for obvious reasons. And he helps you to learn how your actions relate to your value. Okay, that's literally what fathers do. So this is fatherless behavior, is this belief, this reducing everything back to sex, reducing everything back to your sexual value or your loss of sexual value. Fatherlessness behavior, your inability to recognize your value in terms of your actions. Fatherlessness behavior. So, like, that's why I wanted to start with the home depot dad theory, that the home depot, her perfect dad, validates everything about her and cleans up all of her messes, but does not teach her to value herself through her actions. Because if she had that conception, or if she wasn't lying about the existence of that conception, she wouldn't be reducing everything down to sex work, and feminists wouldn't be reducing everything down to sex work, everything down to women's sexual value. Which, you know, half of a woman's life, she has none. What's she
Yeah.
gonna do then? Right? Like, it's like, does your life just cease to, like, that's it? Menopause, you're over? I mean, I'd rather listen to, like, the old rural women and how they managed to age into that situation and what they did with themselves instead of Manifestelle. Because, like, half your life is going to be people not valuing you for sex. Ladies, what happens then? All right, let's keep going.
With this video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, that'll come up later. The second reason is being able to challenge social norms as a form of empowerment. Like, S work.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to make you stop there just for a minute. All right. So,
A minute.
challenging social norms. They talk about challenging social norms all the time. Feminists, oh, we got to challenge social. Why? A lot
That's
of
a
things
good
become
point.
social norms because they make people's lives better. Like, it's a social norm. It's not a law, it's not a rule, but it's a social norm that in countries where when you drive your car, you drive on the right side of the road. If you go into a grocery store, you'll see most people have their shopping carts on the right side of the aisle. And if you walk up and down the street, you'll see that when people are going both directions on a sidewalk, the social norm is you move to the right, in the direction that you're going. And a lot of times that's just so that you're not running over each other, being rude to each other, getting into conflicts with each other over this is my space, this is your space, and so on. And it's a social norm that exists to facilitate peaceful relationships between strangers. You have a relationship in that moment. We're going to share this space for a minute. I want to get the beans. I'm going to wait till you go by, and then I'll cross the aisle and grab them. And it's politeness is a social norm, right? A lot of social norms exist because they are good. They exist because they help people be able to live among each other. Sometimes there are social norms that need to be challenged, right? Gynocentrism is a social norm that needs to be challenged. I'll bet feminists don't want to do that.
I would guess not.
Challenging social norms is another way of saying destroying the social trust. So that's it. It's just destruction.
And how is it necessarily even empowering?
It isn't.
Because feminists take pleasure in destroying things because they can say, I did that. So that's how they feel empowered. Empowerment is self-idolatry. It is basically, I am the most important thing in the room. I did that. And even if that thing is destruction, they take pleasure in that. They call it empowering. They upset people, you know, like they make what was that director of that Star Wars thing? She was like, I like to make men very uncomfortable. This has nothing to do about creating anything. It's just destruction. That's it. It's destruction. That's what it is. Let's just call it what it is.
Yeah,
They just
good
want to
point.
destroy. It's challenging social norms. Another way of saying destroying the social trust, and they have done that. By the way, we live in a pretty low trust society compared to what it once was, thanks to feminist destruction of social norms. Oh, I'm sorry, challenging social norms.
Well, I challenge a social norm. The social norm of not giving a crap about men.
Yeah,
But
but not
I'm
for
trying
the
to do
sake
it
of
in a
challenging
constructive
social
way.
norms, right?
Sorry?
You do it for, and it's not just for the sake of challenging social norms. It's because that one is dysfunctional.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. But you're right. It's not the thing is that challenging social norms is not a good in and of itself. I think that's what Brian is getting at.
Right. Well, that's what I was getting at. It's morally neutral, and there's a lot of times where it's the opposite. It's actually something bad, especially if you're doing it just for its own sake and not to accomplish something to benefit other people.
Okay. Let's finish this time code because
All
we
right.
have this is
Two more
gonna be a long,
videos.
long stream.
Against the moral policing of women's bodies. And the third reason is economic opportunity. So for individuals with limited economic options, S-work can offer a viable livelihood, particularly in contexts where other employment opportunities are scarce or inaccessible.
Or they could be
And in the digital
homemakers.
era, platforms like OF and
No, but that's work and that's labor, and they don't get paid, and that's oppressive.
I feel like this might be some gay ops going on with this woman.
Oh,
here.
absolutely.
She
I've been
doesn't
saying
go.
I've been saying this for years. Manifestelle is obviously she is an op. This is a psyop for
Yeah,
women, and it
but
works.
I'm looking
It
at
works
her.
so well.
She doesn't go 10 words without saying something that is absolute bullshit. Like the idea, she talks about women's bodies being policed like men's bodies are not policed. So I don't remember her name, but the chick that is currently with Kanye West just went to some award show, and I don't pay attention to the award shows or anything, but that picture was like everywhere, and you couldn't avoid it if you wanted to. It was all over X. It was all over.
The
it was
pictures.
on Facebook.
Yeah, I know.
Like of all the things, completely, her outfit revealed everything, right? And there's this big discussion over whether it's policing women's bodies to object to that and blah, blah, blah. If a man did that, the discussion would be how many people did he victimize with that sexual assault? It would not be this woman has a right to behave this way. This woman is victimizing herself. This woman is what she did was an affront. It's not Kim Kardashian, that demon or the demon Foxy. That was an old relationship. This is the person who replaced her, the new model. But in any case, the whole reaction
Kanye has a type.
Yeah. The whole reaction would have been different if it was a dude, right? And it's not just because, women have everything up inside and underneath and men have it all hanging out. It's because in comparison to women, men's bodies are highly policed. If you really want to complain, whether it's good or bad for people's bodies to be policed, women do not suffer from that anywhere near on the level that men do. A man can be treated as a lifelong criminal because he had to go to the bathroom and was nowhere near one and, took a leak in an alley behind a bar and somebody came around and saw him and called the cops, right? This woman went to a highly publicized event where pictures of her were going to be plastered all over the internet, where she was going to be on media everywhere, where the people there were people who were there to work. It was their job to be there. They could not avoid her. And plastered her nudity in front of everybody all over the place. Right? That isn't a sexual assault, but happening to be in a back alley urinating on the wall when somebody comes around the corner is. Tell me that women are more policed than men. Try. I beg you to try. Because I'm calling bullshit every second of that. And yet, that's something that she spouted a minute ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, honestly, men are definitely more policed when it comes to their clothing. If they exit the house without wearing one of like what 6 approved uniforms based on the activity that they're engaging with, they
Mhm.
will be harassed. And of course, feminists will call that misogyny. I know, it is what it is. I'm not going to say that men should go out looking like Elton John, although that would be amusing. You could just imagine.
Actually, life would be a lot more fun if half the men in the world dressed like Elton John and Liberace. I'll be
Yeah,
honest.
that would be a lot of fun.
It would
But
make their lives difficult because there's a lot of things men do that they just can't subject those kind of outfits to that and then still maintain
yeah,
the outfits.
exactly. Because the idea behind the outfit is that you are focusing on your physical appearance, your performance, the attraction of people's attention, as opposed to what you do with your actions. And our society is really, really hyper focused on making men conform to that pure sense of action. I mean, if you go back a century and men's outfits were more interesting. Go back 2 centuries, you start to get more and more like they're
Mhm.
more more creative, more about drawing attention, more about showing yourself as, and there was even a component of that kind of flamboyantness was associated with a warrior class. And if you even look like the Comanche and what they went to war and was all this pageantry, and all that's gone. Now men are about utility, and men can't have any pageantry because it's all about action, and that's it. And that's policing.
Yeah.
That's a change in how men present themselves, and it relates also to how men are policed in terms of their their physical presentation with others. They're not supposed to take up space. They're not supposed to be loud. They're not supposed to draw the eye. They're supposed to be quiet and inobtrusive, like a Roomba in the corner. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They do their thing, and then they just go and just be as quiet and inobtrusive, like a butler. Just you don't want to see the butler. You don't even want to know that he exists. You don't want him to breathe in your world. He should just look like he's part of the furniture. That's the aim that men are. It's all policing. It's all women saying to men, we don't want to, you don't want you to be flamboyant. We're going to be a faggot. Oops. Shit. We might just lose our.
I think I said the word rape like 10 times, so don't worry about
Okay.
it.
All right. Yeah. Okay. We don't want that. We want you to be inobtrusive. We just want you to be an object of service. That's all policing. Right. So don't give me this crap that men's bodies aren't policed. And then also, speaking of objects of service, they're forced into conscription. That's policing. If a man is raped, legal precedent is that he is 100% obligated to responsibilities to result in child. That's policing. You're absolutely right, Karen. You're absolutely right, other Karen.
We are interchangeable, the two of us. We're both verbose. We're both loudmouths. we both. I don't know.
You don't insult
Actually,
me
I
quite
think
as
she
much
has
as
better
Karen
manners
does.
than I do.
No, she does not have better manners than you. It's always nice bringing you on because I get a break from being insulted. But the whole like you're absolutely right. There's all kinds of constant policing
Yeah.
involved in this. Like and it's so much policing that it's become invisible and completely invisible to women. They don't know they don't even notice how much pressure is put on men to solely exist as an object of service while drawing absolutely no attention to oneself. They
Yeah.
don't she doesn't even she can't even comprehend it because she doesn't even know it exists. And she is in fact part of that pressure because what does she do? What is her demands? Men be an object of service to me and impact me as little as possible.
Yep. She would be the person who, in my workplace, would have to tell everybody every day, "Don't mess up that toilet. I just cleaned it." Right? They don't. My goal is you don't have to think about the toilet. Her goal would be that's my toilet. Everybody needs to pay attention to me because I did a good job. And that's an issue that makes you miserable when you're in that situation. If I don't hear about my tasks, if somebody doesn't come to me and say there's a problem, I'm happy. Right?
Mm.
I don't have to hear you did a great job. In fact, if somebody comes to me and was like, wow, the bathroom was fabulous, you did a great job. Okay, thanks. I don't want to talk about it. I just want to get it done. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, when you're in
honest-
that situation where everything you think about is like the women's bodies being policed comment is a me, my, I attitude, right? It's not. Women are held to a degree of the account that men are held to in terms of the impact of their visibility on the public. It's how dare you make me feel bad about anything, and you can decide how I feel, and because I'm always thinking about what you think of me, and I'm always thinking about the response I'm getting from you. I'm never thinking about the impact I have on you, and that's basically what she's done this whole conversation. And the second half of that, her not going 10 words without pissing me off, is this economic thing. All right. It's not that there's a shortage of jobs. That's not why sex work exists. All right. There's a shortage of jobs that are as easy and fun as sex work can be when you have the ideal sex work situation versus jobs that involve things like scrubbing a toilet. Right? And when we talk about sex work, including things like creating still image porn and creating porn where you work with a partner that you would be having sex with anyway, like there's a lot of husband and wife teams, right? That's a lot more fun job for some people than like I told you I was going to be late because my workplace was impacted with a couple of illnesses, and one of them was gastroenteritis. I spent the last couple of weeks cleaning up puke on a regular basis, a lot of it, and then worked extra hours because it went through all of us. I had my 2 days off, and that's when I got sick, so I didn't miss any shifts, but all of my coworkers got sick when they were scheduled to work. So, these are things that you do because you have a dedication to your job. It's not fun to clean up puke, right? But you care about the person that you're there to take care of and the environment that you're there to create, so you do it. And then you're satisfied that you did what needed to be done for that job. And you've taken care of the individual and you've taken care of the environment. And when you leave and the next shift comes in, things are as they should be. And that's highly satisfying, even if the work includes aspects that really suck, that they're not fun. Women don't go into sex work because they can't find another job. They go into a sex work because it pays more than another job, or because they don't want to clean up shit and puke, or sell people things, or be someone's secretary and take dictation, or get an education and work in a lab, become a doctor or lawyer or whatever. Or because they're addicted to drugs and they don't take care of themselves. Some sex workers, they're not necessarily victims, but they're in a bad situation and they're continuing to make bad choices because of it. All right. But that's this idea that women go into sex work because they can't get other jobs is bullshit. Sorry, she doesn't understand the agency again. The agency involved in this.
I'm just gonna say she's lying again.
Yeah.
She lies. That's it. She's a liar. And women buy it because they want to. They really want to believe it, so they believe it. It's so easy. It's so easy. You can make like so much money if you just like played into the victimhood narrative. Not that I suggest it because it's lying and I think that's immoral, but that is what she's doing. All right. So we've been going for like almost 2 hours now. So should I move on to the next thing?
Yes.
All right. Which one do you want to do? I Married a Monster or The Village Disappeared?
The village disappeared. Maybe the village disappeared because women are no longer held to any standard. Like, why should women?
Maybe they just didn't
Well,
want to be around her because she was a bitch.
Do you know what is meant by the village in this context? Do you know what the context of The Village Disappeared? Do you know what the village is?
Okay, tell me.
Well, let's jump to the time code. We'll let her tell you. So this is the tricky one in a way. So we're gonna go. Let me see the beginning, I guess.
Like a forgotten species in our modern day society. The job of being a mother, it feels a lot for one person because it was never meant to be for one person.
Exactly.
It was meant for a village.
A village.
Oh God, it's the "it takes a village" narrative.
Yes, it's the "it takes a village" narrative, which is literally commie shit. By the way, the village is well. Let's finish the soundbite here. Hold on.
Why is nobody helping co-raise my kids with me like we used to?
Hey, bestie.
Oh my God, what is she wearing? All right, so the
Looks like
village.
something out of the 80s.
This is important for you guys to pay attention to, and this is like across most of this kind of content. What the left does is they marry a kernel of truth to a much larger lie so that it's harder for you to debunk it. Okay, so the village is this idea, and I know that Natty has actually co-signed on this, and that's how I know she's been hoodwinked by this commie gobbledygook nonsense. The idea is that Hillary Clinton, like you said, she used to say it takes a village to raise a child. And that sounds right. Okay. It feels like, oh, okay, I get it. Like if you have a community and everyone is looking out for each other and they're all like, involved with each other's families and so the neighbors' kids and they know your kids and like we can all help out. That's what it sounds like. Sounds really good. Okay. But that's not what they really mean. And I'll give you another example of a group that brings up the village as well, and that is Black Lives Matter. The group, the organization on their website, which they've since taken it down or changed it, but it remains, the internet's forever. You can probably still find it. They said that they disrupt the traditional nuclear family by, basically disrupting is sort of like challenging norms like the family, which means destroying it ultimately, and replacing like the family as it exists with, I believe they actually use every word except father, like mothers, aunts, grandmothers, and parents, which is just like whatever the hell that means. And BLM was run by a couple of fat black lesbians. So they were literally about destroying the family. And when people agree, when they talk about that they agree with this concept of the village, or they don't like the term nuclear family because it implies that it's only mom, dad, and the kids, that's a lie as well. The nuclear means the nucleus of a much broader network, which includes your community, but also your extended family. That's not communist, but this idea of the village is, because ultimately it's about removing the father and creating a system where there will at first have to be a state that essentially runs the family, kind of like our welfare state does. And then once the people have gotten accustomed to a situation where their communes are run by the women and basically the women, because the men aren't allowed to have any authority, then they will finally find like they've made the perfect social man or the socialist man, and then they can supposedly the state will just melt away because everyone will be on the same page, and then we'll have your utopia. This is all lies, but I'm just pointing out, when she says the village disappeared, she is not advocating for a family with a father present. She is not advocating for that. She is not even advocating for an organically formed community, because if you lived like I live in a town and there are lots of people here that have kids and they're married and they've been together a long time, and there is not really going to be an issue of divorce. It's not really a problem around here. And the people do know each other and they have parties. When somebody has a birthday, everyone attends. That thing that she's saying is disappearing, it's not. It's just that where she's getting her info is social media. So there are women on social media who probably are not doing their due diligence, and they're lazy, and they don't want people participating in, they don't want to be a part of raising children. They just want other people to do it for them. And so they complain that there's no village action happening, but that's just not true. So that's why I wanted to make sure that you guys have to understand that when these people, when communists start using language like social and village, they are lying. They're trying to get you to believe something that's not real. They're trying to, like, they're using words in a very, very dishonest way. People already can form communities which start from families and often are based in some kind of faith that keeps people together. But of course, Manifestelle, who claims to be a Catholic, which is clearly another lie, she doesn't believe in that. And her concept of the village is basically like, you know, if men are present, they're just keeping their heads down and doing the work that women don't want to do. But they
I mean,
don't
like Mormons,
authority.
like the Church of, or the one, the 7-day Adventists, the one that's like the crazy Mormons that all the other Mormons are like, we're not like that. That sounds like that community.
The
It
one with the
sounds,
sister wives?
yeah, the sister wives. That sounds 100% like that community. The men are forced into, like, they have to conform to the most strict moral standards. They're told who their wives are, you know, and the wives themselves construct these communities. And then the other thing is that what they're finding is difficult with getting rid of these Mormon, like specifically the Mormon polygamous communities, is that they'll get rid of the guy, the supposed head man, and then suddenly another one pops up.
Mm-hmm.
Because the women are the ones driving these communities. It's what they find with the terrorist communiunities. It's the women that are keeping the continuity of these communities, and they get rid of the men, and the women will just swoop together and then birth more men to lead the community and go out and be violent. And the authorities actually recognize this, and they recognize that it's almost impossible to get rid of these kind of culty communities. Like there was this one community, this like Christian, it was not really Christian, but it was like almost this very strange, sexually abusive cult. And the head guy disappeared, and now one of his wives controls it. It's like you can't get rid of these communities until you recognize the power that these women have to continue them by instilling the values of these communities into their children. The men
These
are
women are the
it.
architects of the thing they are claiming is their own undoing, right? They are the architects. And there's a couple of ways in which they are the architects. Like, first of all, like Brian said, the actual community around child rearing within families and neighborhoods and towns and cities and stuff, that's not disappearing. That's alive and well and thriving in households and neighborhoods, in large communities, in small communities, in schools, in churches. It's everywhere, right? What she's wanting is for it to be controlled by women and run by women. And when that happens, women don't get along. They alienate the hell out of each other. They can't agree on what the standards are, and they don't show any accountability in regard to doing this task. So when you cut out all the men, you cut the backbone out of the body that is the village. And now all you have is people who are doing it for their own image, people who are looking to get something out of it but not necessarily give anything into it, people who are not trying to be role models for the children, people who are not invested in the welfare of the children but are invested in their own welfare or empowerment, which, like, in my professional experience, the term empowerment means something entirely different than the way feminists use it, right? Empowerment is if you have somebody that on their own, they can't maybe walk very well, but you give them a mobility device and now they don't need somebody else's permission to get up and go to the bathroom. That's empowerment, right? Feminists don't do that. For feminists, it's more you're able to put your debauchery on display and people aren't allowed to criticize you for it. That's their idea of empowerment. So when you take this notion of the village and you put other feminist values in around it and everything, what you're basically creating is a zoo, a circus, not a village. These women are not having difficulty finding what they're looking for. They're looking for something that was never the way children were raised, because if humanity tried to do it that way, we would have died out as a species eons ago.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think that it's just important that we understand what's going on here with this language. And it's funny because Manifestelle will make references to other feminist work to justify her claims, which is like basically the snake eating its own tail. Like they reference each other and they call it the truth, but there's no root from which it spawns that actually proves anything. So it's all like self-referential, like AI art. But anyway, let's listen to another clip because we've been going for a long time here. So
evidence of the significance of children being raised by a village. Why did society dynamics shift? Like, why did the village disappear? Okay. And to answer this question, we need to look at a few distinct shifts in society. And as we mentioned earlier, pre-industrialization villages were self-sufficient economic units with families collectively getting their bag. Okay, they're getting their bag together. It's always like a family business of some sort, craft making tasks, agricultural work. But when industrialization came, it brought about an economic shift where it dissolved these structures where people were collectively getting their bag, and instead everyone was individually getting their bag. They had to get a job individually. Like, factories are not hiring families, they're hiring one person. Okay, so
they
Okay,
hire
she's got that wrong.
industrialization-
Actually, that's not how that happened. In fact, whole families went to work for the same factory, including the children. Whole families went to work in the coal mines, including the women and children, until rich women decided that women didn't belong in the coal mines. Didn't object to the children being there, though. Like, whole families worked for a wealthy family where the wife might work in the kitchen as a cook, or she might be a maid. The husband might be security. He might be something along the lines of a butler. He might be have janitorial duties and things like that. And the children did work for many years, many decades, and a few centuries, in fact, during the industrial age, as people became less likely to do crafting type work or do any other type work that's replaced by the industrial complex. Whole families did go to work for the same entity. It was not unusual at all.
yeah. Well, she's basically saying that industrialization led to individualism. Let's play some more.
And it led to a shift from rural and urban living, and it just completely changed family structures. And here we see nuclear families replacing the extended family as the primary social unit because of, industrialization. So one of the changes is that
Okay, I don't want to play too much because this has gone really long.
Okay,
But what she's
industrialization didn't cause that. Medicine caused that. Just
well, but what is that was caused? Like were people just not able to like live within extended families because there was a factory somewhere?
it wasn't a
Like,
matter of inability.
This is like complaining about the sun coming up. Like, we
Right.
live in an industrial society. It was inevitable. So what? Now what? What are you going to do about it? Like, change your lifestyle. You don't like it? Go move in with your mom. Like, women can do that.
What are we going to do about it? We're going to
Convalescent
destroy the
homes.
family further.
Yeah, we
Convalescent
should just
homes
destroy the
were-
family because I don't like that. But I'm also not liking that while I'm sitting on the internet talking into a fucking microphone at the
Right.
world, which was a product of industrialization. So like you're basically attacking the thing that you're using to attack it, and you're not offering anything as an actual solution. Like, if you
But she's
want to
also
live
just called
within an
baseline.
extended family, then live within an extended family. Make it a priority. The Mormons do it. The Amish do it. The Mormons still take advantage of technology. They're not like, oh my God, I have to choose between transhumanism and the Handmaid's Tale. No, they just live in a society with each other. They do it well. It's not an inevitable thing. That you're just complaining that the sun rises at this
What
point.
she's complaining about, she sees a benefit and she's not getting it. She doesn't see
Yeah.
how the women involved in these communities are actually constructing the benefit for themselves. This is what's dangerous about women like this towards other women, by the way.
She's complaining
She
that
can't
because other
see-
people have choices.
She can't
She's not
see
complaining
how.
about not getting a benefit she sees. She's complaining because other people have choices. People don't fail to live in an extended family because you go to work in different places. People don't live in an extended family because their parents move into a nursing home or kids are putting their parents into a nursing home, right? People don't live in an extended family because people choose to live apart. She's complaining about other people having choices.
Yes, but also those choices can be considered a benefit that she doesn't have, but she doesn't. But the danger is that she doesn't recognize that the women in those communities, the actions of the women in those communities are in part what creates those women's choices and benefits. So what I'm getting at is women like this will look at something that you have built for yourself or you have built for yourself in community with other women and say it's unfair, because they can't recognize that your actions constructed that thing, that you have an unfair resource, and they'll destroy it. They'll attempt to destroy it because they think that you got it unfairly, even though you got it by virtue of your choices and actions. Right.
See, that's the thing. She has the same choices as those other women.
Yes.
It's just that she's alienated the people around her to the degree that they don't want to live with her.
Or, I mean, there's a lot of fragmentation going, but she's definitely not, she's not talking about the values that would lead to a woman having a community. Like the thing is, she talks about atomization, but everything out of her mouth is envy and competition and get your bag and secure your bag while getting his bag. It's like that. These are not the choices or these are not the things that you aim for if you want to be part of a community of like-minded people helping you, is what I'm getting at. So it's like the whole sitting in a pile of shit thing. She's choosing to sit in a pile of shit and she's not recognizing that her choices are putting her there. I know somebody in the chat said that she thinks that women should be public property instead of private property. How about not being property? Get out of the pile of shit. And the way that you do that is stop being addicted to having value for nothing. Like, the only things that have value for nothing are objects. People should have value for what they do and their wisdom, what they've built for themselves. Right. And this is the thing. This is the thing that women have to navigate, is that for a brief time in their life, possibly even less than half their life, they get a lot of value for virtue of just existing, a lot of sexual value. But then for the rest of their life, they don't. Right? It's gone. Goodbye. And what do you do then? And like I said, if they do not want to be sex objects, if they don't want to sit in the pile of shit, get out of it. You have to choose to get out of the pile of shit. Stop complaining about the pile of shit when you're choosing to sit in it. Get the fuck out of it. All right.
You can play the next thing she's saying really quick, because I think she's about to reverse cause and effect here.
All right, let's see.
Urban homes, they can no longer accommodate extended families. And also with the growth of the factory.
So she says one of the reasons that people don't live in extended families is that urban homes don't accommodate extended families, right? That's backwards. One of the reasons that urban homes don't accommodate extended families is because of how long it has been common for people to choose to not live in extended families. If you don't have to have room for your parents to live with you because they're going to go into nursing care in a building full of people their age that are in nursing care, you don't need a home that is designed to accommodate an extended family. Like, that's just the way that it is. And so the market follows the needs of the consumer. The market follows what people will pay for. And if people aren't buying extended family homes because parents are going to live in nursing homes, siblings are making their own homes, people are moving hundreds of miles apart from each other. I live 1,000 miles away from my brother and his family. For instance, they moved to Florida, for their health, actually. because Ohio is not a very healthy place to live. Like we're actually the reason the EPA exists. But I'm not kidding. I actually looked it up. There's quite a bit of truth to that. But in any
Sure.
case, yeah, this thing of people can't have extended families because apartments exist. Bullshit. If you want to have an extended family, you don't go live in an urban area. You know, if you want to live in an extended family home, you move to the country. You pool your resources, you buy a farmhouse, you have plenty of room for an extended family home. You go to a small community, you go to a suburb, you go to a rural town instead of an urban community. You do what it takes to find the space that you need. But most people aren't. It's not their goal to do that. And it doesn't have to be. And so, yeah, she really did reverse cause and effect there. And I'm sure she's doing that with quite a number of other things.
Well,
Because she's female and women do not I'm sorry, but I'm going to be sexist about this, all right? Women do not identify cause and effect very well in circumstances like this. They don't think of it as problem, evaluation, identification of solution, and then effort towards solution. It's problem, okay, who do I blame for this?
Mm.
Right? And
Yeah.
that is, it's not a masculine behavior, it's feminine behavior, and she's doing it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's like they look at something and they can't see their own actions. It's like this gigantic blind spot in their thinking. And it's
Yeah.
really interesting because, again, you're going to spend half of your life in that blind spot, ladies. You might as well figure out what's in it.
If you spend your whole life looking at the world around you and you never consider, all right, how does this work? Why is it like that? And instead, all you're considering is, you know, how does this affect me and whose fault is it? Then you reverse cause and effect like that all the time. And I will, it's because she's female, right? She never has to really live like that. She never really has to make it a focus of her life to understand, you know, how does this work and why is it that way in order to determine what she's going to do. She only has to determine who to call for help.
Okay. Up you go. Up. Okay. All right. So I think we've have we exhausted this, or was there any other point in this one that was salient?
No,
She's pretty exhausting.
That's it.
Yeah,
yes.
she is exhausting. All right, let's go to the last one. This is the one that literally made me rage.
All right. So it's called I Married a Monster, and it's basically about domestic violence. And of course, it's just men. We're just talking about men, guys.
So the 13% of domestic violence that sort of looks like the way feminists portray it.
13%, guys. The vast minority of domestic violence. That's what we're going to look at, because that's the part. That's the part that makes money.
Yeah, not the 80%, 87% that's not like that.
Yeah, and we're just going to focus on the 13%. And when we do that, we're, of course, going to end up with a solution to this social problem. No, why would actually, know what? Why would we ever want to solve it? Because the 13% gets us so much money and clout.
Yep.
All
right. So do you have if you have a specific time code in mind, I jumped ahead to the
unfortunately my cat closed all my tabs.
Understanding the role of socioeconomic status. Let's look at just this here.
Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health.
It's epidemiology. You mean epidemiology?
Systematic review published in the Journal of Epidemiology and Community Health found that lower childhood socioeconomic position is associated with a greater risk of
they
adverse
study
childhood
epidemics
experiences, including
what?
They study epidemics.
Yeah. Okay.
CSA. And the study emphasizes that any policy approach ignoring the socioeconomic context of ACEs is flawed. And this is why I don't mince words when it comes to women getting their bag, securing their own bag, having their own financial independence, financial knowledge, financial security, stability. Because if women had the resources to leave these situations, the chances of these bad things happening to them decreases. So these
Notice
studies,
you
Well-
never have to tell men to do that, right? You don't have to tell boys, be prepared to get your bag, secure your financial. Nobody has to tell guys to do that because they grow up knowing that that's going to be expected of them. They don't have an option to not do that and let somebody else pay their way through life.
I want to point out where she says this right here. So lower childhood SPC. Okay, so she says any policy. This is according to a paper which is feminist. Let's just understand that. Like when you talk about academic studies or papers or reports or whatever, any data that's coming out of some official source, it is most likely a feminist thing that already comes with its own bias packed in. It says any policy approach that ignores the socioeconomic context of ACEs is therefore flawed. That is them saying you can't use data on its own without including our bias slanted input. Any policy approach that ignores the socioeconomic context, i.e., communist language, to ACEs is therefore flawed. I'm just telling you, that's right there, that's the trap. Because from now on, if you accept this, then you have to accept whatever bullshit comes with it, and you can't look at anything objectively because socioeconomic context. And you don't know what that is because it can't be pinned down as anything like, like actually like solid or objective because it's all context. So like if two men like beat each other up and one of them is like, killed or raped or something, socioeconomic context suggests what? Well, which one of them is white? Which one of them is black? Which one of them has more money than the other one? Which one of them is gay? Which one of them is straight? It has nothing to do with whatever actually fucking happened because you have to include all this intersectional shit. So I'm just pointing out that right there, that's the important detail that she just glossed over. Like, well, the official sources from these people who are really smart, and you just have to believe they said this, so believe it. And those people are her people. They make appeals to their authorities, and they call it fact. It's like lightning struck the tablets, and they come down from the mountain, and they're like, behold, I bring you the 10 commandments of feminism. It's always men's fault. Actually, it's only one commandment. So that's what this is. I just want to point that out. So you guys see that.
Okay, now backing this up a bit, relationship between childhood socioeconomic position and adverse childhood experiences. It's essentially just saying that poor kids experience worse outcomes. Now, the policy implications, which there no doubt will be, is, I don't know, universal basic income or something. They usually go into this kind of thing. But the thing is that they may have inverse causality. It may be that these behaviors create poverty rather than poverty creating these behaviors. But I'd also like to point out.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'd also like to point out that looking at economic factors sort of is in contradiction to let's blame men. Okay, but let's keep. But what she's saying is that in order to prevent this from happening, women need to be able to pay for their own bills and work and everything. But then she'll also say that doing that is an unfair imposition on women. Honestly, I think this might be a mouthpiece for UBI eventually, that she's going to be saying that women deserve to get a certain amount from the government.
UBI is universal. It's not even that. It's women BI.
Yeah.
WBI.
Women basic income.
And I want to point out one other thing. It's not necessarily that either poverty causes violence or violence causes poverty. I think the characteristics or flaws or failures in development that lead to a tendency toward violence instead of better solutions to one's problems also lead to poverty, because they lead to people not taking the steps that they need to take in order to not be poor.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, no. I mean it yes. Okay. I'm gonna jump to the next thing here. The role of socioeconomic status is like 18. So here.
Financial responsibility and the financial knowledge. You better have your own finances in order. Like your finances and your family finances, they have to be separate. Like you can have your own and also be part of the family finances. You know what I mean? Like,
See,
and I
only
just wanted to
women
say
get the
this
opportunity
because
to
this
do
is an
that too.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I wanted to say about that.
Yeah, I
just
know,
don't
for
get,
sure.
Men don't get to do that.
Well, they don't deserve it. They're the reason why the woman needs to save up in the first place.
observation in the Spoiled Girly support group. I feel like this is a call in for us. I make money management videos here and there, but tell me why they always bomb. They always underperform. No one watches them.
Because
And
women
I
are
think it's because
irresponsible.
it's just not a conversation that a lot of us are interested in. And that's so
See?
sad because I feel
That's
like it's such a core
irresponsible.
part of being a spoiled girly is spoiling yourself with the knowledge, with the stability, with the security. Like you're a spoiled girly because you spoil yourself
They
first.
bomb,
You're a lover
friend.
girl because
Let me give you an information that they bomb because they require the women in your audience to take responsibility for something. Lady, it's funny because now I wonder if she's not a victim of her audience. Because she has to literally tell her audience this constant fatuous bullshit. And anytime she actually says, hey, I have a skill that you might benefit from learning, they're like, boo, bitch, shut up and just blow smoke up our twats. That's all you're here for.
Yeah.
Oh, that must be hell. Like, I have a skill that I've cultivated. Shut up, bitch. It's unfair you have that. That's just a resource. Give us our bag. Like, God, Lord. No,
Well, I mean, we don't really know that most of her supposed financial advice videos are just more creative ways for women to extract money from men. So
yes.
maybe
Well,
they
if
just
they were,
didn't implement them, or they're afraid to.
if they were, they'd probably be doing better with their audience. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
If that's what it was. I'm pretty like, if it's not doing well with her audience, I would lay odds that she's actually trying to offer them some way of improving their recognizing how their actions affect negative consequences and inviting them to improve those actions, because I'm guessing that that's what's bombing with their audience.
Draco nailed it. This is I don't know which one is which here, but it's not showing in the restream chat. So I think it's the vertical. He said she is saying that a woman should always prepare to exit a family.
Why the hell?
That is really.
Oh no, absolutely. That's what she's saying. Yeah,
and and that's why men don't get to do that, because you can have you could build a separate financial entity for yourself if you wanted to, right? If you had the selfishness and didn't, want to provide for your family and take care of your children that women have. The thing is, even if everything was in your name and not hers, and you kept it separate and you didn't make it part of the marital property, if you actually decided to exit the family, the court would still give it to her. They would take it from you if she knew about it. If in fact, if you don't tell the court about it in some places, you can go to jail for that.
Yeah.
All right. I think there's a bit more of this. So
sure.
Because you love yourself most. Okay, so
you love yourself
if you
most.
truly want to empower yourself and other women, please learn about money. Okay, you don't need to be rich, but you need to be secure. Moving on, here's a little detail that I didn't see people talk about, and it's about how the mother claimed that the man presented himself as a quote-unquote good Christian man. And we've done a class on good religious men, good Christian men, good Mormon men. And one thing about these people who use their religion or ideological affiliation as proxy for being an actual good person.
You mean like you do when you
That's
call
what
yourself a
feminists do.
Catholic? Yeah.
Yeah.
Or when feminists claim they care about women. I'm sorry, that's not steps to protect children from harm. I think that's like the last thing I got here. So she goes on to, I just want to point out that she is a fake, period, just a fake. Okay.
Yeah.
And it's the man's biological daughter. The man still does it to his own children. You can do everything right and these things still happen. But the best we can do as a community, as a society, is to arm ourselves with knowledge so that we can prevent this from happening. Speaking of arming ourselves with knowledge, Darkness to Light, the charitable organization that we are fundraising, created the 5 steps to protecting children. And here's a quote from their website. 1 in 10 children in the US will be essayed before the age of 18. Darkness to Light believes that adults are responsible for the safety of children and that adults should be taking proactive steps to protect children from essay. It is unrealistic to
She
think
means sexual assault, but she's afraid to
Mhm.
say it.
that a child should be responsible
Not
for fending off such advances by an adult. And step 1 is learn the facts. Understand the prevalence and realities of CSA and recognize that it can happen in any community and that most harmers are known to the child. Step 2 is minimize opportunity. Reduce situations where a child is alone with an adult or older youth. Implement policies that promote group activities and open environments. Step 3 is talk about it.
okay. Already she's
Encourage
making a
open
mistake. All right.
Mm.
Most people, the vast overwhelming majority of people, as in you could be in a room with hundreds of people and there not be a single perpetrator in that room. Most people are not perpetrators, right? The people who are perpetrators do it over and over again. They do it to multiple people, not just one. And they do it until they are caught and stopped. So throughout their entire lives, because they have something that went wrong during their development and never got corrected. And they do have behaviors that can be recognized by the people around them. And it is more likely for somebody to get sexually assaulted as a child, raped, whatever form of sexual assault takes place, by an adult that is being tolerated because people are afraid to criticize that adult's behavior for some reason or another. And I guess the best way to put it is the largest group of adults for whom the protection exists of political incorrectness involving criticizing them is women, right? One of the largest groups of sexual assailants is women within systems that children are put into because the state says you have to. And that's not just the school system, but that is one of them. But the other one is the juvenile justice system. Right? And you look at the juvenile justice system, the majority of victims of sexual misconduct were victimized by staff. The majority that were victimized by staff, despite the fact that women were less than half of staff, were victimized by women. And the majority was boys. That's because the majority of people that get put into the juvenile justice system are boys. And it doesn't matter whether it's because they actually did something they shouldn't do and are in there as a punishment, or that it's wrong to put them in there. The fact that the majority that are assaulted in there, sexually assaulted, are being assaulted by a minority within a minority of the employees, women, tells you something. People are always looking out. Oh, there's a man going to be alone with our children. He must be dangerous. Watch out for both sexes. Watch out for creepy behavior. Watch out for people who feel entitled to get between you and your children. And watch out for people who use, you can't criticize me because it's politically incorrect to suggest this.
Okay.
And stop just trying to blame men.
All right. So I think what we were getting into was she was reading off a website who deals with sexual abuse of kids.
Darkness to Light.
Yeah, I think that I would get away from that because I haven't actually looked very deeply into this. Let's just go with what she's asserting, because she proceeds to assert a whole bunch of very destructive
Well, I want to,
misdirections.
yeah, I jumped back to earlier in the video
Yeah,
because
that thing up on the screen's kind of interesting.
well, that's where I jumped to. This will be the last time code, but this is like the money. This is like the money shot. This is the delivery right here,
Okay.
where she
Well, I think-
uses the data from darkness to light to make a slightly. This is again marrying a truth to a lie to
Mhm.
make a different point. So let's let her say this, and then I'm going to turn my microphone off, and you guys can say whatever you want. Okay?
Parents.
there'll be
And
some
I
anger.
always get pushback whenever I uphold the two-parent household setup for children, but the numbers don't lie. Every time a deadbeat father walks out on his children, every time a marriage dissolves, the children are not only subjected to a greater risk of poverty, which is trauma in and of itself, but the harsh reality that now they are significantly, statistically, 8 to 10 times more unsafe than they have ever been. Okay? Like, obviously, with nuance, no nuance, Nelly. Obviously, things are outside of our control, but these are the stakes. Okay? These are the stakes. This is what's on the line. Okay? And I hope we all take it seriously. So think twice about who you have children with. And it's also
How about-
important to note that
That's good advice, but she's wrong about the deadbeat dad thing, because most of the time when there's not a dad in the home, that was the mother's choice. Just saying.
And also it's the mother's choice to have, a baby dad or be baby mommy number 2 with the guy who's obviously not a good idea. Like who gives her the tingles but doesn't have any kind of stable employment, or these guys are not like they throw out red flags like crazy. I don't understand why feminists can't see these red flags. Like, honestly, I mean, okay, let's keep no, don't go, don't skip that. Because this is the money shot. But yeah, she's right.
right.
Women need to be more careful, or actually recognize the red flags. Recognize that as a woman, you are going to be attracted to sociopaths over regular guys. Now, we
Allison,
used to have a whole what?
I was going to say though, here's the problem with that. If all men are trash, then how can women possibly pick a good man? What is the point in discerning when all men are garbage? So if feminists tell women that all men are trash, then women can't discern a good man because there are no good men. So whenever
Right.
she picks a
Yeah.
man, she just it
picking
can't be
from
based
bad
on
men, yeah.
values because men don't have values. They're not worth anything. So they will pick bad men because they're told that there are no good men. And that is good because when things go sour, then feminists can step up and say, see, men are bad. So
Yeah.
like they don't want to solve
You're
the
actually
problem.
right.
It's
Yeah.
like they say in a song. It's like they
Because
say in the song,
immediately-
or like that guy says in the song. There's no good men, but you bitches stay pregnant.
Okay, but you're absolutely right, Brian, because she then segues into this. And it's not just here, it's also later on. I sent you the link as well, the later on. She just goes on and on and on and on about how bad men are. But yeah,
Well, and
let's keep going.
she puts up a statement that's probably from that website that's based on criminal allegations
All right.
or crime statistics that are a result of not counting it as rape when women do it. So if you define bank robbing as only black people coming in with a gun and holding up a teller, and anybody else that comes in with a gun and holds up a teller, it's not bank robbery, you call it something else, then of course the outcome, the stats you're going to get are, well, 100% of bank robberies are committed by black people. Well, it's because you defined everyone else out of it. Nobody would tolerate that because it would be obvious prejudice. But if you define rape to exclude being forced to penetrate or being forcibly enveloped by your rapist, right, then you exclude female perpetration against men and boys. And then
Yeah,
when
but it's not- it's
you set
inconvenient.
up statistics, when you exclude that and then you count the statistics on who gets convicted, of course you're going to get, well, almost exclusively men do this. When in fact, quite a number of women do it.
Okay, let's get into these stats. Listen what she says about
All
them.
right.
So think twice about who you have children with. And it's also important to note that men are responsible for 90 to 95% of all reported cases. I
No,
All
also
that's
reported
not even
cases.
reported.
in-
That's not even reported. That's convicted. Convicted. That actually doesn't reflect who is engaging in sexual assault. It reflects who our society chooses to punish for it. This is completely misleading. And if you want to use this, then something like 90% of all sexual assault allegations are false allegations. If only convictions matter, rape and sexual assault is very rare. And also, false accusations absolutely dwarf, if only convictions matter, absolutely dwarfed by false accusations. Because the only grapes that happen are the ones that are convicted. So every time a woman reports a grape and it doesn't result in a conviction, that's obviously a false accusation. Like, this is the bullshit that comes out of their mouths. It's absolute crap. If you look at the surveys of people reporting on these kinds of actions taken against them, it's equal. In the last year, it's been found to be equal for like 4 years in a row with the CDC, except for 16, 17, where they changed their methodology, and we're still trying to figure out what they did. Well, whatever they did to change their methodology resulted in a non-response rate that was insane. Like, I don't know what the feminists did to that particular survey, but people were starting to no-sale it at an unbelievable rate. Who knows what kind of intrusive bullshit they were needling in to try to get the results they wanted. But anyway, for several years in a row, they found that in the last year, equal numbers of men and women reported sexual assault, like penetrative sexual assault or envelopative, however you want to define that. And the other thing is that boys report more sexual assault around the world than girls. Boys are at 6% or 9, was it 6%, and girls are at something like 4%? Like, so boys are being sexually assaulted more. There is now more and more evidence that a lot of that sexual assault is being done by women and girls. And then the other thing is that there are huge rates of sexual assault by women in the histories of male rapists. And there's also a longitudinal study that looked at this and found that being assaulted by a woman is the single largest causal factor. Now, the largest dual factor is being assaulted and neglect. But the single largest causal factor is being assaulted by a woman for a boy to go on to assault others. And that's just a minority, by the way. So bullshit that this is some sort of thing about men. This is infuriating. And they always hyper focus on sexual assault because there's a confluence of social, legal, political factors, custom factors that lead to only the sexual assault done by men and boys being reported, while the sexual assault done by women and girls are poo-pooed. And that you should be grateful for that. You know, that's just the cost of doing business. You know, we are not at the point as a society yet.
When it comes down to it,
recently recognized that women sexually assault. It's going to take a while before we really understand the prevalence, and there is significant evidence that it is high. So this is
when it
not
comes
a male
down
behavior.
to it, if you really want to protect your children from being sexually assaulted, besides the fact that you're going to teach them about boundaries, you're going to teach them to stand up for themselves, you're going to pay attention to the people that you allow them to be alone with. And you're going to make sure that you have a good, close relationship with your children so that they can come and tell you if they're uncomfortable around an adult or something happens that you should be concerned about. You also should be prepared to believe them. If they say something politically incorrect about a woman or somebody who is an alternative sexuality or somebody who is a minority race or any other reason that somebody might be able to use their identity status as a shield against criticism of their behavior, you have to be prepared to say, no, fuck that. You still can't behave this way toward my child. I don't care if I'm going to look like an asshole or a bigot or whatever for criticizing you. You can't do that. I wouldn't put up with it if, my brother or sister did it. I'm not going to put up with it if you do it. And that's it. You can't let those things be a shield. And you can't let your kids be naive, The teenager who raped me when I was a kid was brutally raped and beaten by his mother. It wasn't even a statistic. Oh, he's more likely to do this. It was a step and another step, right? She taught him to be that way. It wasn't an increase in risk. It was a direct change in his behavior because of what he learned from his parents growing up. And the people who took him out of that home and put him into the foster home where I ran into him, not as a foster kid, but as a family member of the foster parents, they didn't care about his potential trauma from the sexual assault. They didn't really care about his potential trauma from being beaten. They just cared that they had taken him out of the home and they were getting child support for him. Right? They didn't tell the foster parents everything he had been through. I know that happened to him because he told me. And he let me feel the scars on his scalp, on his head, from where she hit him with a baseball bat. Women can be absolutely evil, just like men. Men can be absolutely evil, just like women. The difference is, women can use being a woman to get away with it. Men cannot use being a man to get away with it. And when women can use being a woman to get away with it, that means that the effects of their evil acts can have echoes from the person they impacted to the people that are impacted by that person, and so on, without any steps being taken to stop the cycle. Because you can't acknowledge the cycle because a woman started it. That's evil.
Okay, what's next? Allison, are you there? Are you trying to talk? Because we can't hear you.
Yeah, she's trying to talk.
I can't hear you. Fix your shit.
I was muted. Okay.
Oh, there we go.
I think the final conclusion of all this is Manifestelle is evil. I'm not sure we can top that. I mean, there's this, she goes on to talk about how, let me just read it out so we don't have to look at it. She goes on to talk about how, so the mother detailed, this is the case study that she had. The mother detailed how she got married to this man quickly because he's a good Christian man and he can't be living with someone who isn't his wife. And this probably sounds like a romance novel. No, like the man sweeps the woman off her feet, solves her problems, gives her and her children housing. Wait. Okay. They get married within a week.
What?
It sounds like a fairy tale. No, it sounds like an idiot. And it's not real.
Sound like a fairy tale.
Okay, so we have to live in reality. Like this whole situation is giving red flag central. Yes. So why are you using it as an example of anything? Like, oh, you have to be prepared to exit your relationship at any moment. Yeah, sure. If you get into them once a week, like you need to be wary of people who use identification with certain religion. Okay, yeah, we've already done that. Putting the blame. I also wanted to get into the misogyny of all, placing the heavy blame on the mother for not protecting her daughters when it's the father who did the harming. Yeah. So yes, but the. Well, no.
This either or thing is bullshit. All right. If the father did the harming and the mother knew that she had taken the risk that she was with a bad guy and she stayed with him until her daughters got hurt, they are both at fault. That's both of them. She's not innocent just because what he did was bad and he's at fault for what he did. She's not innocent of failing to protect her daughters just because the person who hurt them was someone she decided to fuck.
Well, apparently he actually sexually assaulted their biological daughter. So they got together within a week.
Ugh.
I guess she had other children and then they had more children and then he assaulted them. It's it's a bit of a mess. I'm not sure what she's really trying to say ultimately about obviously man bad. We can go to 2030. Let's go to 2030 and play there.
Psychopathic men, narcissistic men, harmful men like this, they can be very charismatic. They're so good at making you feel like you're high on cloud 9 about yourself. And then they make you
That only
dependent
works if
on
you're
them for that high.
vulnerable.
Okay, so you overlook everything
The
else
Well,
ego
it works.
as long as you
No,
get your
actually,
supply.
she's right. She's right. Like psychopathic men have a personality style that for whatever reason women find deeply attractive.
Not for whatever reason. It's because women are largely narcissistic, right? Women are vulnerable to this because women's primary means of finding any satisfaction in life is what that guy is feeding, right? If their primary means of finding satisfaction in life was doing things to have an impact on their community that is positive for other people, there is no amount of flattery somebody could engage in, no matter how under the radar it might fly, that would do this, that would result in this, because there wouldn't be a vulnerability to it, that it wouldn't be a means of tricking them. They would see right through it. Or
no, I agree.
It just wouldn't be persuasive. It wouldn't matter.
Agree, but it's something that women have a problem with generally.
Let me put it this way. If you offered me $1 million in Monopoly money, would I sell you anything for that?
Probably not, no.
Right. And it's the same thing. They're accepting a currency that is worthless.
Well, yeah,
but they're vulnerable.
Yeah, but they're looking at that specifically the researchers that looked into it looked at it as a potential evolutionary adaptation, so that psychopaths, essentially it's a reproductive strategy to be more initially attractive to women. Now I know that's evolution, evo-psych, and lots of people don't like it, but what I'm getting at is, as a woman, if you know that this shit is true, and Manifestelle is pointing it out, so she, like Brian is saying, a kernel of truth attached to a whole mountain of bullshit, pig shit. But if you know that, then maybe take an effort to be suspicious when you find this emotion engaged, when they start to do this thing. And I don't even think that psychopaths necessarily love bomb. They just engage in behavior that women find attractive. It's probably negging and all of that other stuff that pickup artists used to teach men to engage in. Normal
manipulation of the ego, right?
Yeah, manipulation of the ego. But they would teach normal men to become attractive in that way. But that was all wrong, because only sociopaths are attractive to women, I guess.
So dads in the audience, if you want to arm your daughters specifically against this type of man, then raise them to not be narcissistic. Raise them to be humble.
Yeah, raise them to actually be okay, to have a more positive relationship with criticism. So the thing is that what I've noticed about myself is that when someone comes in hard with the flattery, I'm just like, what's your game? What's your angle? Like, it immediately gets my hackles up. And this is it. And even if somebody comes in with like the insults, it's usually it's this kind of energy that they give off that it's very manipulative, and it's fairly obvious. And I don't know, it's just I think you're right. It's like, don't teach your daughters to be addicted to fatuous praise or be vulnerable to negging. Like, just and if you're a woman, this is what Home Depot dad would tell you rather than Home Depot dad. You know, don't be addicted to flattery. Learn to manage reasonable criticism. Like, probably the best thing that a father could do to protect his daughter from sociopaths is to teach her to handle her criticism, so that she is not addicted to empty flattery, and she's not vulnerable to negging. But like, if that can't be done, then maybe we should also teach men normal men who can emotionally regulate. They have conscientiousness. They'd be good providers. Maybe it would teach them the skills to make themselves attractive to women as well. Just sort of meet in the middle here. That would be a benefit to everyone, wouldn't it?
Yep.
Possibly we've had traditions that did that promoted men and women sort of meeting in the middle. Maybe we shouldn't have thrown them out under the guise of throwing out all tradition as being a benefit.
Yeah.
All right, let's finish this time code and then we'll move on to the next one. It will be done eventually.
And praising you, him liking you, him loving you. But can't you see, like, you are blinded by the validation, by the love for yourself.
So
when
maybe
you take
stop
ownership of that,
promoting women's socialization to focus so much on the validation. Like, this is your entire channel, Manifestelle. If he doesn't constantly stamp my ass with validation, he's not worth it. Well,
Her advice. Oh my god. Read what it says on the screen. Her fucking advice to women who are vulnerable to psychopathic men's emotional manipulation because of how narcissistic they are is to be so narcissistic that they can't be manipulated. There is no such thing. The more narcissistic you get, the more it bothers you when people don't approve.
Yeah, the more you'll be responding to negs, the more you'll be responding to the sociopathic personality. Like this channel is women. Do you want to die alone with children? Do you want a baby daddy and not a husband? Listen to me, Manifestelle. I'll make sure all of your nightmares come true for you. Like, literally, get off the narcissism drug. Learn to take criticism. Learn to make mistakes and recognize them. Learn to see yourself in terms of your actions. You don't want to end up with a freaking sociopath. That's what you do. When you do that, sociopaths light up like glowies. They become instantaneously obvious and hilarious at the same time because they're so easy to just poke and, you make them do funny things. And it's like they're just not attractive anymore. That's what you do. But Manifestelle is giving you the recipe for a nightmare life, misery. All right. Speaking of misery, let's finish this.
All right. I got a super chat I should read really quick from Mr. Playlist Man for $5. He says, Allison, what was the solution that feminists rejected that would help with rape statistics? Okay, that's it. I don't know the answer to that, but
psychological interventions, therapies for rapists. So looking at it in terms of a psychological issue that can be an individual psychological issue. So recognizing the trauma that a man had experienced and resolving it in terms of therapy, like various forms of therapy. That's what they didn't want, those interventions. I actually have a recording from a radio in the 90s where they talked about these kinds of interventions with at-risk youth. So they were doing it. And what they would do is they try to get in there, help deal with the trauma, because a lot, and I believe the woman who was part of this program talked about it. These young men have tremendous amounts of physical, sexual, and neglect-based trauma. So you'd get in, you'd work with them to overcome that, and then you'd also model appropriate consent-based behaviors, and you would also like model a platonic relationship with an adult woman and an adult man and that kind of stuff that doesn't involve mediating through sexuality, and then you would build them into somebody who could understand appropriate sexual behavior and appropriate sexual boundaries in the greater world by recognizing that they were at risk, specifically because of abuse, specifically because of sexual abuse. Feminists got in there and said, but that doesn't support our ideology that men use sexual violence generally to enforce patriarchy. So we should oppose these things because they don't help us control the narrative. So they basically opposed these kinds of interventions. It's why they existed in the 90s, and then suddenly we had a huge crater of nothing, not doing that stuff. And it's why there's a lot of people who are involved in these kinds of social services that absolutely despise feminists, because they're destroying that the evidence and science-based interventions that they were trying to develop to help people, and they were destroying them specifically to advance their ideology for money and also clout, because that's what it's there for. So, like, I don't, when I started this, I didn't want to think feminism was as absolutely vile and evil as it ended up being, but it's really vile and evil. Like, it's really vile and evil. It's all, there's almost no excuse. I can't make an excuse for this anymore. Anyway.
All right. So what's the next time code? Or am I just playing more of this?
Yeah, so Egregious Charles says, I currently know a woman in a relationship with a controlling, abusive man, and he's all about the negging and praising, rarely, if ever. Yeah, that's the negging also plays on the ego, because you now want to get that supply for your self-identity. It's almost like that becomes the carrot and they just pull it along. But, like both the negging and the love bombing, the positive, the fatuous praise, they're both part of the same hook. It's like handing your identity to the praise of another person rather than basing it on your perception of your like what you see as your ethical system, and you're developing your skills. So one is based on the outcome of your actions in the greater world, and the other is based on someone else's perception of you. And Home Depot dad makes his daughter addicted to other people's perceptions of them rather than developing her skills in seeing herself in terms of the ethics that she embodies and the skills that she develops. All right. Okay. Let's keep going. So I think we're losing audience.
Love for yourself. No one can ever control you. No one can ever blind you. Okay, like people with bad intentions, they hate to see a truly free woman, a truly liberated woman, a woman with high self-esteem.
Don't
They so
say
hate to see it.
Manifestelle. Satan tells on herself. Ugh. I mean, because what do you peddle but just fatuous praise, an addiction to fatuous praise, which the corresponding downside is you are going to be controlled by anybody who withdraws praise.
Yep.
Including Manifestelle. All right, let's keep. Okay. Actually, can we go to 1539? So that's the end of it, I promise. 1539. 1539. There we go.
Okay. At least for reported cases, this argument that men who have resources are way more likely to control you and hurt you and do bad things to you and your children, people literally foaming at the mouth to give their 20-second think piece on a woman who just wanted better for her children, using this god-awful situation as a gotcha, as a
see, I told you so. This is what happens when you're all about dating rich men, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, yeah, it is. Like, look what happened to her. It's just not accurate. All these studies on childhood adverse experiences isn't just a conspiracy of people who don't have anything better to do, okay? It's people who have been in the trenches helping children and their families whenever
so
these cases
this is
arise.
actually stolen valor that she's using from people who are trying to help children. She's stealing valor from them to present this. What is her conclusion? Let's keep going.
Adverse childhood experiences, including SA, happens in lower socioeconomic status situations. And this isn't to uphold high SES families and men, rich men, provider men, men with resources, because these studies really only feature reported cases. So in the event that these cases are highly underreported,
now it's important.
Now it's important to emphasize that there's a lot of cases that aren't reported. Hey, Manifestelle, you want to do some stats on those unreported cases, or the not reported to the police, but actually reported on surveys? Because I think you're going to have to recognize something pretty intense. The sheer rate at which women perpetuate sexual assault. All right.
It's even more obvious when women tell on themselves. And I actually put a graphic in, and I thought I had the book next to me so I could tell you which book it was from. And I think I am wrong, and I don't have the book next to me. But yeah, no, that's not the book that I was thinking it was. But in any case, yeah, in a survey that was done where women were asked about motives for sexual aggression on a scale from total consent to using a weapon to threaten somebody to make them have sex with you. You have a whole set of different. So if you look at like
Brian
the
came
first,
prepared.
yeah, I sent him that. But if you look at the first set of that, like the first one is obviously that's consent. That's not aggression, right? And you initiated contact is just assertiveness. You overestimated your partner's desire. So that doesn't necessarily indicate that the individual acted inappropriately. But when a man does that, it's presumed that he's predatory. So from there on down, everything else in that list is stuff that men get accused of being predatory for doing, right? And this is, people will look at this and say, oh, it's such a tiny little sample size. But they've made allegations gender-wide against men based on studies with smaller sample sizes that had less straightforward questions and then were interpreted. You attempted to arouse your partner, right? Using my biology against me. You threatened to end the relationship. Okay, that's manipulation. You said things you did not mean. That's where feminists start accusing men of rapey behavior. Oh, you lied to get sex. That's rapey, right? You pressured with verbal arguments. They call that rapey. You questioned your partner's sexuality. That's abusive. That's genuinely abusive. And they would consider that rapey, right? So we're looking at, from you questioned your partner's sexuality down from beneath that, we're looking at things that are abusive ways to use sex. You had sex to make someone else jealous. That's abusive. You had sex to hurt someone. You had sex to end another relationship. And you're seeing these percentages are all, this is more than 1 in 5 women for every single one of these. More until you get down to gain something from a person in power, then you're at 1 in 4. To express your anger at your partner, to retaliate against your partner for whatever, to gain power or control over your partner, right? And then number 15, feminists call that rape while he was drunk or stoned. Number 16. Number 17, by getting him drunk or stoned, right? That becomes actual substance facilitated rape. While he was a minor and you were not, 29.3%. All right. That is 3 in 10. That is just shy of 1 in 3. So a third of women in this survey admitted to statutory rape. And we're looking at, this woman talking about this as something that men do.
Yeah.
Something that men do to little girls.
Yep.
A third of women admitted to statutory rape. Did
you want to go further down?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I wanted to emphasize that because this is something that we hear all the, most statutory rape, most molestation, it's male perpetrated, not according to women's own admissions. All right. By using your position of power and authority. 1 in 4. By taking advantage of a compromising position, right? 30%. So 3 in 10. By threatening to use physical force, almost 30%. That's 27.8, real close to 30%. So almost 3 in 10, more than 4 in 10, right? By using physical force, 1 in 5. 1 in 5 women has used physical force to make a man or a boy have sex with them. That is the definition of forcible rape. 1 in 5 women in this survey directly admitted to committing forcible rape. And then we have by threatening self-harm, and 8.9% admitted to using a weapon, like Machete Girl. I don't know if you remember that story. So,
well, presumably a girl threatened a man with a machete in order to have sex with him.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, she threatened him with a machete. He managed to I think, survived the situation physically unharmed. She didn't actually cut him. But, obviously he's traumatized. You would be traumatized just by the threat with a machete, because you've seen them. You imagine the damage something like that would do, even if somebody that wasn't that strong hit you with it.
Behead someone with a machete.
Right. And all over your body. It doesn't take that deep of a cut to kill someone. It just takes it to be placed in the right situation, the right spot. You don't have a whole lot of space, for instance, on your arm, on the inside of your arm, where a good deep cut, maybe half an inch or more, wouldn't be seriously life-threatening. And you're going to get that deep with a machete the way that you swing it, right? So that had to be absolutely terrifying for that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Right? She wasn't convicted of rape. She forced him to have sex at machete point. Wasn't convicted of rape. She was treated as a mentally ill person, which, yeah, that's a mentally ill person type behavior. But if she'd have been a man, she'd have just been imprisoned as a rapist.
Mm-hmm.
So we see this, and women admitting to these things, and there are news stories like that where women they've made the news for doing these type of things, right? And they don't make the statistics, because instead of recognizing, that's forcible rape. That is the definition of forcible rape. Oh, she's mentally ill. We're going to put her in an institution and she's going to get treatment, but we're not going to call it rape because it's not fair to call it rape if she's mentally ill. Every rapist is mentally ill. There is no such thing as a mentally healthy rapist. Rape is a mentally unhealthy behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody does that unless there's something wrong with them. It's not how you achieve intimacy. So the idea that women don't do this and it's only a male behavior is based on ignoring information like this, or excusing information like this, or shuffling it off to the side. Well, it's too small. There might have been flaws with the study. We're not going to pay attention to what women said about themselves, and taking cases like that and compartmentalizing them by not acknowledging the fact that something can be a manifestation of mentally unhealthy conditions and still be a crime.
Yeah, and this particular, I guess we're going to have to figure out how to be able to show these kinds of documents on the.
I know you can't see the whole thing, can you?
No, you
Well,
can't.
on the
You can only see
vertical,
little-
it's really small because there
Right.
isn't a lot of space to work with. So
Well, maybe what we could do in the future is just change it to something that shows the document and maybe the person talking about it. But that requires a bit of discipline, I know. On the part of the part of your panel, Brian. That's what I mean. But the other thing is that this isn't isolated. When you actually define women forcing men to have sex as physical sexual assault, or you actually capture that activity, and you don't, like, the National Violence Against Women survey actually doesn't capture women forcing men to have sex using their vaginas as rape. But when you actually ask questions related to that activity, when you reduce the memory errors by restricting it to the last 6 months or year, you start to find a huge rate of sexual assault by men, of men by women. And there's more studies that find this than just the one that we've been talking about. So what I want to point out, two things. One, what Brian talked about, how actually it's all men. That's what she's saying here. It's all men. And she's specifically using the statistic on sexual assault to justify a combative relationship with men. So this is a really critical statistic to start deconstructing, to start disassembling, to get the truth about. And the truth is that humans be rapey, and that's both men and women. And actually, we're not really that rapey. I mean, there's some species that's basically all they do, like ducks and porpoises. But like, this is not a male thing, and this is the keystone. This is the Rosetta Stone. This is the holy grail for female self-righteousness. the stats around sexual assault, because no matter what argument is made, they can always come back to this one and say, see, we're superior, we're morally
Yeah.
superior, therefore you need to submit to us. You need to open up your locker rooms and your boys clubs and your boy scouts. You need to let us in, then give us oversight over you because you are rapey. This is their one. This is the big kahuna of arguments. It's why I always go back to it and I say, we need to break this one. We need to break it. We need to annihilate it as an argument. If you're listening to me, if you're a man, as uncomfortable as it is to recognize, you are as vulnerable to sexual assault from women as women are from men. And that's because human beings are very clever. They use weapons. This is what these things are here for, is to use weapons. So it doesn't matter that men are stronger, because women will use coercion. They'll use threats of false accusations. Well, they'll use coercive situations like, if you don't do this, I'll get some guy to beat you up or something like that. Or I'll get you kidnapped by the state in a false accusation. Or they use weapons or credible threats. Like violence.
And there's something else that I need to point out about this image, and it's something that I think is very relevant in the discussion of sexual misconduct in general, because it is a form of violence. These are forms of violence or forms of predatory behavior. And this survey was a survey of college-age women, and a lot of the surveys where feminists get answers from men that have a higher prevalence than you would expect of yes answers for sexually aggressive behaviors and sexually predatory behaviors are college age men. And as you get into older ages, you see less and less of this, similarly to how you would see, when was the last time you got into a bar fight? And you ask people just that question straightforward, you're going to get a lot more recent answers among the younger crowd than you will among the older crowd. And the reason is violence is an immature behavior. Aggression is an immature behavior in general, because people, as they age and as they mature, they learn better ways of handling conflicts of interest between themselves and other people. And they learn better ways of gaining what they crave from other people. And they learn that aggressive means of obtaining intimacy may get you sex, but it doesn't get you intimacy, because the other person is not participating in an intimate manner. They're not on board with you. And so you don't get that experience when you engage in an aggressive behavior sexually, unless the other person is into that, which does happen on occasion. So you see, like, if you parent children, you see a huge amount of physical aggression in toddlers. Infants can't be aggressive because they don't have the physical bodily control. As soon as they start gaining physical bodily control, if you have children that are close in age, like less than 3 years apart, the older one will start beating on the younger one until you teach them not to do that. And you have to instill a sense of love and consideration and compassion for the other sibling, or they don't develop a sense of guilt over hurting the other sibling. And these types of things, as you raise your children and you instill those values in your children and you let them hash out their conflicts with each other and learn the benefits of negotiation and cooperation and compromise and things like that over using aggression to get what they want, you see their behavior change over time. Some people take longer than others, and so you end up with somebody that into their 20s and maybe their 30s even uses aggression and manipulation and other forms of non-cooperative behavior to get what they want from other people. And as a result, they're miserable and they make other people miserable. And this is kind of a reflection of that. And I would put money on it that if you ask exactly the same questions between men and women and you do it in a way where they don't think they're admitting to a sex crime when they answer the questions, you will get more yes answers from women at the same age group, in like college age and in their 20s and in their 30s, on this particular subject, because they're less likely to have learned those cooperation skills, those negotiation skills, the value of everything else that's not aggression and manipulation, as a means of connecting with other people and getting the result you want in your encounters with other people. They don't have the same consequences growing up, so they don't learn the same lessons. Whereas boys do have those consequences, and they do learn those lessons. They do learn that they're not going to be able to get away with that, and they also learn that they're not getting the result they want. So I thought that was important to point out. And then I will also say, I hope I can pronounce this last name, Pepito says Spezagudi, pointed out this is the correct title. This is from Anderson, PB, 1998, Women's Motives for Sexual Initiation and Aggression. PB Anderson and C. Struckman Johnson, eds, Sexually Aggressive Women, Current Perspectives and Controversies. And I have that book around here somewhere.
So do I.
Yeah, it's
all right.
It's an important book if you want to understand that particular subject. So,
okay, so let's finish this time code, because ultimately it's her Manifestelle talking about how it's all men. Incidentally, it's not all men.
Back to her video. Yeah,
Asian sexual assault are of a tiny minority. They are genetically distinct from normal men. I keep saying this, and I need to harp on this. They're more distinct from normal men than gay men are from straight. So they are a tiny, disturbed minority. And so let's finish this off.
In high SES contexts, I think the bottom line is rich men, poor men, average men, at the end of the day, they're all men. Okay, so like for all the people literally throw me up.
Fucking piece of
yeah. There's the Duper's Delight grin. Imagine being happy about thinking that all men were rapists. Like, wouldn't you be terrified?
No, she's happy about lying about this shit.
Yeah.
She knows that this is a manifest lie. And yeah, you're right. You're right, Brian.
Really believe that.
It starts with why don't you choose a good man, and it ends with no men are good. So how do you choose a good man? Like Brian called it from the beginning, probably because he's been on every step of the journey into this woman's. And the thing is that look at her channel. Huge. Yeah, no. Her and the other female dating strategy women, gigantic. Women love this.
Oh my gosh.
They don't want this
from
yes, she's female dating strategy. She's spoiled girly. She is one of them. And it's huge. Like, this is a huge marketplace. Telling women that they're right, blowing fatuous praise up their ass, and then making them, yes, and it's like, and if men don't do this for you, then kick them to the curb. Well, okay, that's not how it works. But regardless, so absolutely terrible advice for women. Terrible life advice. The kind of life advice you're going to end up living in a nightmare if you follow. But it tells you everything you want to hear. She tells women everything they want to hear. And it's just, it's mind-boggling. I mean, I just got shit from a woman in the comments of one of the videos. You remember the video that we just did, Brian, about the woman who was sex trafficked, allegedly?
Yeah,
and I
sex
said,
traffic. Well, I mean, it's probably true, but like, I don't know, maybe. Yeah, but go on. What was the comment?
But regardless, I said, have you considered that you've been exploiting men, specifically the men who come to you because they have emotional needs that are not being met, and you are exploiting them? Like you're giving them the facsimile of this kind of an emotional acceptance or whatever. And that is itself an exploitation, and it was in response to her saying, well, I heard that some of the guys that I had sex with were cheating on their wives, and I felt bad for their wives. I felt like I was exploiting their wives or whatever. And so I pointed out, hey, what about the men who were emotionally vulnerable and you were exploiting that for money? And then this woman
I got a
comes in.
question about this. When
Can I
she
just
said she was sex trafficked, was she saying that someone forced her to do this against her will?
We didn't go
I
into
don't
that part, so we don't know. It was
Okay,
was
We don't
another
because
know.
video.
that's what
But
I don't
being
know. Don't
sex trafficked
speculate.
is.
It's probably not a good idea to speculate on. Let's just assume it.
Okay.
Okay, so one heavenly Lee Sky says, "Whoa, you're saying that she's exploiting men while she's being sex trafficked? Dude, I'm not about that believe all women sheet, but think about what you're implying here, Allison." Yeah, but you can actually be a victimizer as you're a victim as well. My God, you have such a chip on your shoulder. All of your arguments are so hollow and surface level. After all my years listening to Karen and Mike, sorry, hun, but you're not why I come to these discussions. Yes, I am the one who has a surface level argument.
Well, you responded though to her saying that she felt like she was exploiting their wives, right?
Yes, and I said, what about the men who come to you because they have these emotional needs and you are using that
Yeah.
to make money? I mean, truth be told, I guess they're getting something out of it and their wives are getting nothing out of it, or these other
But
men's wives are
she's
getting
not
nothing out of it.
interacting with their wives.
hurt
They
people hurt
basically
people.
just bypassed the men, and these people got mad at you for pointing out that the men were bypassed.
Yeah, if you're pulled into a situation where people are exploiting people and you're part of that, you're still, even if you are being exploited, you're also engaging in exploiting others, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, yes, she says she was sex trafficked. I don't know if she was exploiting those men when she was being sex trafficked, if the sex trafficking was separate from this activity. But if you're in an exploitative circumstance in which you are exploiting others and being exploited, that doesn't change the fact that you are exploiting others.
And it actually happens a lot, in fact. It's not just with regard to sex trafficking, that happens in the drug world as well, right? Not everybody who hands over a set of doses of various types of doses of drugs for currency is doing so because that's the job they wanted to do. Some of them are doing that because in their neighborhood, if they don't join their gang and do that, they will get killed by the gang members. Like that's a reality for a lot of young men in urban areas in the United States, in Mexico, probably in Canada, probably in the UK, at pretty much every nation that has drug problems, that happens. And it's mostly specific to men. There are women that get involved in that as well and do the same thing. But when it comes to the risk taking end of it like that, it's a lot of it's men. The teenagers that I hung out with that were selling drugs were conned into it by adults who were part of a crime syndicate. Like they ended up behaving as badly as the adults, but the agency that they had as teenagers was nothing like the agency that, a 50-year-old has. And so there's a lot of exploitation that takes place. And then those guys roped other guys into it. And of course, some of them thought they really had a good deal because they had more money than the guys that were working at McDonald's, right? And you did have quite a bit of, well, yeah, that boy's being exploited, but he just got 4 of his buddies involved. It's not just sex trafficking. And people care a lot about it when it's women and would never, ever criticize them for roping other women into it, even though a lot of sex traffickers are women who may themselves have been trafficked, but then they rope other women into it. But they would absolutely criticize those guys. So I think a lot of times when you have something going on like this and you get criticized, it's not compassion for the trafficking and the exploitation, the circumstances that the person you're criticizing are under. It's the fact that she's female and they're a bit gynocentric. So therefore, if she is suffering adversity, it reduces her accountability in the situation in their eyes farther than it would if she was male.
Yeah, and that's infuriating. So I responded with, oh goodness, things are not popping up. Never mind, doesn't matter how I responded. I basically said, well, why can't we talk about that? I mean, she already brought up this idea of her negative effect on the women. Why can't we talk about the negative effect on the men? What's the block? All right, so
Gynocentrism.
Gynocentrism. There was one other chat that I wanted to bring up. So Christopher Adkins says, I'm struggling with whether to come forward or not. I've experienced female sexual assault and considered reporting it and ultimately never did. Well, depending on how late it is, and after it may be just too late. If you are in that situation, do it immediately, and don't let the police give you bullshit. I mean, I think they're more and more less likely to do that now, and to actually take these claims seriously. I mean, I know there's a lot of places where they won't, so you might get some secondary trauma from that, but honestly, we need to start holding women to account for their sexual crimes, because it's the only way that we're going to take, first of all, that we're going to start seeing an overall reduction in this problem generally, but also women don't deserve to be able to use this as some kind of bludgeon against men socially. Like this is the thing they always go back to. Like Manifestelle, this is her excuse for why she gets to treat her relationships as men as battlegrounds. This is it. And yet it is a lie. And you can even see on her face that she must know that this is a lie. Like that is not an honest face. That is not a face you trust. All right. So I think we have a super chat.
Yep.
Sort of wake you up there, Brian.
Xeranx gives us $5 and says, it's not like the NXIVM case where a woman who is said to have spurred on branding people is also considered a victim. Allison, can't happen /S, so it's in sarcasm. The NXIVM is like a sex cult. There were sex trafficking or something. And one of the women, I think the one he's talking about was, I can't remember her name, but she was on she was an actress on a show called Smallville. Allison Mack, I believe her name is. And yeah, they were like branding people and stuff. I mean, Hollywood, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Hollywood has a problem with sex cults that keeps coming up and getting exposed. And no, but yeah,
I would put money on Hollywood disproportionately impacting the statistics in the United States on every manifestation of mental illness that can be measured, including violence and sexual violence in particular.
The woman, I believe Allison Mack, was framed as a victim by the media, but she was definitely participating in that. Yeah, we reported on the show. So
I didn't even notice these comments now have likes to the comment. And this one seems to be circulating between 4 and 6 for some strange reason. Hey, could you decide to like it or not like it? Whoever's clicking that. All right. So
it might not be the person. It might be the system. That happens with me too. I like something, and then a few minutes later, I look and it's disappeared.
So we're just seeing censorship in real time. That's fascinating.
Oh, yeah.
Quite possibly.
Okay.
Or rejection of your privacy settings can be
people
an issue as
reply
well.
to super chats too.
Yeah.
Take the thumb off a bit there, CIA. You're really triggering my Asperger's. All right. So I think that's good. I mean, I think we've pretty much it
was definitely thorough.
Yeah, it was thorough. Also unrelated, Richard Bier put in $2,000. So thank you, Richard Bier.
Very much.
Thank you, Richard.
Yes.
I gotta give you a thing for that. So
thank you. Come again.
Very much appreciated. Very much appreciated to help us out with that. And again, if you want to help, feedthebadger.com/support. I feel like although Manifestelle is a distressing topic, and I would invite Richard to maybe find someone else. I do think that it's important to address it because this is like the nerve center. Sorry guys, this is the nerve center of the bullshit.
She's an
We are
influencer,
looking,
right? She has a lot of women listening to what she has to say. So that is
we are looking at
important.
the id. We are looking at the monsters from the id. A monster from the id right here in this person. And she must be addressed and dealt with, or at least discredited. And yeah, no, she's full of shit. And this
also,
is
I consider my initial impression confirmed.
There you go. Hannah was a complete virgin to the issue of Manifestelle, and she picked up the red flags right off the bat. Okay, there's
eyebrows
another
have it.
I mean,
the eyebrows. It's not phrenology, it's eyebrowology or browology.
It's not necessarily that way with every woman with thin eyebrows, but it really is a red flag, especially if it's put on. Like,
oh, somebody's asking if we could do The View at some point.
Oh,
God. Good Lord!
No,
like
you mean
this
the
is a
show?
monster from the id. That's like the crack. That's the.
We're gonna have to
San
do that when
Andreas
it's
fault
not
right to hell.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do that when it's not cold and flu season, okay? Because I haven't had a day off in a month, really.
All right.
And I'm not gonna
Okay,
have
well-
a day off until after the 21st.
Okay. Well, we won't do that anytime soon. And it might have to be a request. All right. So once again, if you want to support so apologize for my peach and pet impediment. If you want to support the show, please go to feedthebadger.com/support. Every bit helps. So, $5, $10, it's all of it is the $5 or $10 that got us over the top. So feedthebadger.com/support, do it because we exist, because you guys make sure that we continue to do this when we are able to continue. And if you want to send us a message at any time after the show is over, feedthebadger.com/justthetip. Very best way to send us a tip with a message, and we will read it at the next reasonable opportunity. All right, I'm going to hand it back to Brian because I think that he's been gone for the last hour. he's
okay.
He's only
I
technically
mean, we almost did 3 hours. That's a bit insane. No, wait,
we
11.
Did more than 3 hours.
Yeah, 11, 12, 1, 2. It's almost 3. So almost 4 hours of
three
show.
3.5 hours. 3.5
So
hours.
I'm going to be blunt. There have been
I
several
think
people that have asked if we would do a 24-hour stream, which I think is crazy. But we're verbose enough that we would be able to fill it.
I will set it up, and then I'm gonna walk away and live my life while you guys just talk about whatever. And then I'll come back at the appropriate time and take you guys offline.
We actually could probably do this if we were in an area where more than one person could take responsibility for actually running the stream so people could get breaks.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
it would have to be sometime when we go to a gathering.
I gotta read Super Chows. So Pepito, thank you, gives us $10 and says, "Honey for the Badger, thanks for the long format show." I'm not gonna say you're welcome because I don't want you to feel welcome to that. And then Richard Bier gives us $5 and says, "I wonder just what the correlation is between the sexual degeneracy of Hollywood and the infestation of communists in Hollywood." Well, I'm gonna consider that question rhetorical and just leave it at that. Okay, so that's all the Super Chows. Thanks, guys, for coming on the show. And if you like this video, please hit like, subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Hit the bell for notification. Leave us a comment. Let us know what you guys think about what we discussed on the show today. You'll find links to all 4 videos in the description. Thank you, guys. And please share this video if somebody has 4 hours to spare. And thanks guys so much for coming on today's episode of the Rantzerker, and we will talk to you guys in the next video.
Men's rights activists are machines, dude. Okay? They are literal machines. They are talking point machines. They are impossible to fucking deal with, especially if you have a couple dudes who have good memory on top of that too. Holy shit, you're fucked.